Chapter 1 Reborn into the Interstellar Beast World. Binding to host successful. Your identity. The orphanage rabbit director who is infertile. The children in the orphanage are your tools for venting emotions. Baisu hadn't yet recovered from the pain of being burned by fire. Her vision still seemed filled with raging flames, and her younger sister's frantic howls echoed in her ears. Why is it that we both study just as hard, but only you get into college? Why am I the one always losing money in the restaurant business, while you keep opening five-star chains non-stop? Why do I have to marry a local office worker, while you can marry the CEO of the largest hotel and commercial empire in Hua country? But the one who actually got into college was Baisu, yet her parents let her biological younger sister take her place at the university. She had finally built up her catering business through hard work, only to be smeared online by her parents, leaving her ruined and her hotel bankrupt, all to make way for the hotel her younger sister wanted to open. Her marriage to the CEO of a hotel empire was also because he valued her abilities. It was just a union of two strong parties. But she never expected that the one time she refused to yield to her sister would result in, on their wedding day, her sister drugging her with a sleeping pill, locking her in the makeup room, and burning her alive. Congratulations, you have been reborn into the novel Beast World's pampered child as the vicious supporting female character Baisu. Plot and healing abilities have been granted. The golden finger has manifested as an orc bonding ability. Host, please acknowledge receipt. Baisu quickly accepted the situation. She adapted to her surroundings fast. Fortunately, holding the novel's plot in her hands, she could know in advance that tomorrow the heroine would bring one of the male leads to expose her crimes as the unscrupulous orphanage owner. And she would be thrown into prison to rot. Decades later, when she was released from prison, several of the children she had abused would have become vicious major villains who would kill her. This body is very fat, and seems to have all sorts of ailments. But it's fine, the system's companion ability given to her is healing. The food she makes can cure every disease and quickly restore health. Baisu followed the original owner's memories to the kitchen. A few small children in the corner stared at her in terror. Their faces marked with bruises. And there's actually fuzz on its head? Baisu's eyes brightened, a hint of affection crossing her face. She quickly lit the stove and started cooking. To change the fate of the vicious female supporting character, she began by healing the little antagonist of the future. What is she doing? Why is she ignoring us? Before, every time we got beaten we could trade it for food. If she doesn't beat us, does that mean she doesn't want to give us food? No, Xiaohu has a fever. If he doesn't eat, he'll starve to death. The wool-feared child stood guard over the children behind him, a flash of severity passing through his eyes. He had already sent a distress signal down the mountain. The adults would definitely come tomorrow. As long as they could produce evidence proving this woman abused the children, they could drive her away. The little wolf pup comforted the child behind him, mustering his courage to step forward. Director, we want to trade for some food. Little tiger has a fever. He looked terribly shabby and pitiful. His left eye had been gouged out. A large scar covered the eye socket, and the wolf tail behind him was half severed. He closed his eyes, waiting to be beaten, looking so pathetic it softened people's hearts. The expected violence, however, did not appear. Baisu patted his little head and casually stroked his furry little ear. Wait. It'll be ready soon. She deftly took ingredients from the storeroom, rinsed the rice, and washed the vegetables. The wolf pup and the children looked at one another, not understanding what she was up to. But soon a rich, appetizing aroma rose from the pot. A few of the children had never smelled such a rich shredded chicken, shrimp and tofu congee before. They immediately drooled, edging closer with eager eyes. Even the usually wary and composed little wolf cub was tempted, gulping wildly and coming closer. Beast people almost never cooked. Even when they had real food they'd gnaw it raw. Meats at most were boiled to eat, or compressed into cans or nutritional paste. The culinary skill was nearly on the verge of disappearing across the stars. Baisu glanced at them, took a small bowl, and ladled a bowl for each person. Eat. Shed always had little resistance to children, especially those with beast ears. Adorable and pitiful from battle damage. The kids hugged their porridge excitedly, and began to eat heartily. The little wolf pup tentatively took a bite, eyes widening in disbelief. It's so delicious. How can it be this tasty? Is this really porridge? He finished eating and suddenly felt a bit of itchiness in his left eye and the severed wolf tail. He rubbed his eye, didn't think much of it, and just put the bowl in the sink. Director, we've finished eating. It meant that if they wanted to beat someone, they could now. The harsher the beating, the better. Then when the inspectors come tomorrow, they'll know this wicked woman abused the child, and they can use the opportunity to drive her away. Baisu had no intention of changing the impression they had of her in a single day. She only nodded and said, "All right, go play. From now on I'll make delicious food for you every day." The little ones, seeing that they truly weren't going to be beaten, were somewhat incredulous. Baisu didn't pay them any more mind. She brought a bowl of porridge up to look for Little Tiger. Little Tiger was a young tiger beastman, skin and bones from being so thin, still running a fever, his lips chapped. Baisu couldn't help feeling pity, silently cursing the original owner for being so cruel, and hurriedly fed him the porridge. "Eat quickly, little poor thing. Once you finish, all the pains and illnesses on your body will fly away." Little Tiger snuggled in her arms. After eating he quickly broke the fever, the bruises on his body vanished, and he drowsily nuzzled and acted spoiled in Baisu's embrace. Baisu's heart melted. She couldn't help but hold the little guy and soothe him to sleep. How is this any different from raising a litter of fluffballs? Baisu wished she could immediately wash the pots and light the stove to cook a table of delicious food, and feed them until they were plump. Sure enough, no matter the species, the young always look especially endearing. Outside the door, several little heads were secretly watching what was happening here. That idiot Xiao who actually grabbed her clothes and didn't even get beaten. She's holding the little tiger and singing, so gentle. Wow, she's right. After eating the porridge, all the wounds on her body are gone. A few little ones rolled up their sleeves to look. All the injuries were completely healed. The wolf cub grabbed a few of them and slipped into the kitchen. Don't be stupid. She might have discovered our plan and is pretending. We mustn't let our guard down. Tomorrow we have to make sure she gets captured. The kitten scratched his head. But our wounds are healed. The adults won't believe us. A dark shadow passed through the little wolf cub's eyes. Make it yourself. He was the first to act, using his arm to smash into the corner of the wall, pinching and twisting. Seeing this, the other little ones hesitated for a moment, then gritted their teeth and started to do the same. Chapter 2. Trying to arrest her and throw her in the cell? The next day, the usually cold, dim, and dilapidated orphanage on the mountaintop was lively today. Several luxury cars were parked in the courtyard. A female stepped out of the luxury car, a pair of rather short rabbit ears perched on her head, the base of the ears ringed with fuzzy whisker-like fur, making her look like a lionhead rabbit breed. Following closely behind was a male with wolf ears. As he landed, the atmosphere on the scene grew noticeably subdued. The accompanying staff hurriedly bowed their heads, not even daring to breathe. He wore a military uniform and a solemn black and gold cap on his head, the center of the hat bearing the insignia symbolizing the authority of the Federal Army. In the shadow beneath the brim, the sharp, fierce rhomboid eyes were narrow and cutting, and the long, thin face bore a sickly pallor. Almost everyone feared the colonel in his military uniform and cloak, except for the female by his side, Bai Shui. Bai Shui glanced at Lu Tingyan, her eyes showing a trace of yearning for beauty, which she quickly suppressed. "Colonel Lu, it's just like this. I didn't want to have our family's shame exposed, so I asked you to come in person. My sister previously committed a grave mistake, and was expelled and exiled by our family, you know that. Who would have thought she would open an orphanage here? And even abuse." Saying that, Bai Shui bit her lip again, and as if about to say more, looked at Lu Tingyan. "I hope you can keep this a secret for our family. After all, this is quite a scandal." Lu Tingyan thought of Baisu, and a deep loathing flashed across his sullen eyes. "If the crimes you mentioned actually occurred, I'll take her back to the Federation and let the law punish her." Bai Shui smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Principal Lu, for being willing to do me this favor." The two of them slowly walked into the dilapidated orphanage hall. Outside, the Bai family's bodyguards couldn't help but start whispering. Why is Miss being so polite to him? Isn't Lu Tingyan supposed to have had his psychic powers destroyed and become useless? Although he used to be the strongest male in the Federation, ever since he returned from being injured on the battlefield, others have taken the leader position. I really don't understand. Miss clearly used to look down on people like him. I heard a rumor. Last month the young miss suddenly had a fever, and after she woke up her personality changed a lot. Not only does she no longer dislike Lu Shang, she keeps running over to him. Bai Su had just finished making lunch, and set it on the table when she saw two uninvited guests come in. In the original owner's memories, the entanglement of grudges with these two people ran pretty deep. Bai Shui saw her and was the first to greet her. Sister? How did you get so fat? After Bai Su ended up at the orphanage, she gave up on herself. Her emotions made her gain more and more weight. She wasn't tall, but she weighed almost 200 jin. As if realizing that comment was impolite, Bai Shui quickly covered her mouth and said embarrassedly, I brought Colonel Lu to see you. It's a sudden visit, you're not going to be mad, are you? Bai Su rolled her eyes. If you were afraid I'd be angry, you could have sent me a message before coming. No need to pretend now like you're afraid of provoking might suffocating me with all this pretense. Bai Shui's face darkened. You. It's not that Bai Su is unkind, her aggressiveness is understandable. In her previous life she spent almost her entire lifetime living in her sister's shadow. When it comes to someone like her sister, she naturally feels a certain disgust and repulsion. But she had known the two of them were coming today, so she prepared a table of food early. Multi-grain rice, lotus leaf chicken, radish and yam cakes, stir-fried mushrooms and seasonal vegetables, and spicy braised beef, milder dishes for the children and stronger flavored ones for an adult like her. There are coarse grains and fine grains, meat and vegetables balanced, dry and soupy varieties. Bai Shui stared at the dishes on the table in a daze. What are these? Lu Tingyan's eyes swept over those fresh, appetizing dishes with enticing colors. He smelled the warm, delicate aroma of the food and uncontrollably began to drool. Bai Shui quickly came to her senses and looked at Bai Su. You made this? No way, I don't believe it. In today's Federation society, who still cooks? Things she had never even seen. How could Bai Su possibly have made them? Who cares if you believe it? Bai Su rolled her eyes, turned and shouted up the stairs, dinner. The voice wasn't loud, but the children upstairs soon stirred. The little wolf cub came trotting down with 3 children. Almost everyone had injuries on their faces. In the height of summer they wore short sleeves, and the purplish bruises on their arms stood out clearly. The little wolf cub's right cheek was even swollen in a large patch, looking particularly grisly. Bai Su pretended not to see it and only called out, Wash your hands, dinner. We have guests today. I'll add 2 more dishes. She turned to the nearby stove and quickly set about preparing the fish and shrimp, making a fresh shrimp with egg and a golden broth sauerkraut fish. Her movements were smooth and flowing. The ingredients were plainly simple, yet after her handling and cooking they somehow gave off an incredibly rich aroma. It was a scent they had never smelled before. Bai Shui watched her in shock. How could this be? How could food emit such an enticing smell? This was not the scent of ordinary food. Lu Tingyan's gaze studied her movements intently. Her movements slicing the fish were very skilled. This was definitely not something learned overnight. The children didn't show much surprise either. They seemed not astonished that Bai Su could cook. Lu Tingyan withdrew his gaze. It seemed this wasn't the first time Bai Su had cooked for these kids. In the Federation, no household would make such a production out of cooking. Either they'd use nutrient paste for meals, or they'd grab some meat, boil it roughly and throw on some salt to get by. The wolf pup keenly sensed Lu Tingyan's mood, afraid he would be deceived by Bai Su, and quickly put on a frightened expression, looking at Bai Su. I'm sorry, Director Mama, please hit us. We always have to be beaten to get food. We're used to it. A thrill of joy surged in Bai Shui's heart, but her face showed shock. Sister, you abuse them? Bai Su's mouth twitched slightly. She glanced at the little cubs, set the dishes on the table, and said to Lu Tingyan beside her, Colonel, if you don't mind, please sit down and eat with us. I don't want my overly righteous sister accusing me of poor hospitality. Bai Shui rolled her eyes and said disdainfully, Colonel Lu is of noble status, how could he eat your? Lu Tingyan's sharp gaze lingered on the brightly colored dishes for a moment. He thought he needed to personally confirm whether this woman was putting on a show or truly knew how to cook. Lu Tingyan sat down slowly. All right, thank you. Bai Shui widened her eyes and looked at Lu Tingyan in disbelief. Colonel Lu. Bai Su glanced at the other pups. HM? The little wolf pup showed a frightened expression. Yes, Director Mama. Well, be good. Well, eat. Please don't hit us. He led the way onto the table. The other children could no longer hold back, their faces lighting up as they clambered onto the table. The food was fresh and delicious. They couldn't resist and began to eat heartily. Only Bai Shui was left standing awkwardly. She felt embarrassed and had to sit down, displeased as she picked up her bowl. It wasn't that the damned food smelled more delicious than ever, making her salivate crazily. Bai Su gave her a cold glance. Did I tell you to eat? Bai Shui's face flushed hot with shame. She abruptly threw the bowl aside. Fine, I want to eat. Who wants it? Lu Tingyan, sitting next to her, took a few bites and his pupils suddenly constricted. What's going on? In that instant just now, he actually felt a hint of mental energy rejuvenation in his spirit. See? Chapter 3. Redeemed by Gourmet Reversal. How is this possible? His spirit sea had long ago been corroded to nothing in that vicious battle years ago, turned into a barren, lifeless wasteland. In all these years, mental energy has never appeared even once. But when he searched carefully, there was nothing left. Was it an illusion? Lu Tingyan tightened his chopsticks, the light in his eyes gradually fading. The food in his mouth was unexpectedly fragrant, sweet, and delicious. Had never tasted anything so exquisitely flavored. He picked up another piece of lotus leaf chicken, and after eating it a thread of spiritual power passed through his sea of consciousness. He couldn't be mistaken, it really was spiritual power. What was going on? Lu Tingyan's gaze sharpened on the food. Could it be the credit of these dishes? He casually cast a glance at Bai Su, who was sitting diagonally opposite. Bai Su didn't need to look at him to know what was happening. The system was helping her skin Lu Tingyan's physical condition. The food he had eaten was already enough for her healing ability to take effect. Equally shocked were the children. The food was even tastier than yesterday's. They were so young and had never tasted something so good, so they immediately disregarded the imposing Lu Tingyan beside them, and began to gobble it down. The little wolf cub even stole a glance at Bai Su when he had the chance. She merely sat there calmly, eating with grace and quietness. He had noticed since yesterday that there was something strange about this woman. Her way of eating was different, her tone of voice was different, her look was different, the whole person gave off a different feeling. Once this woman was sullen and vicious, itching to lash them 800 times a day, and she reeked filthy from head to toe. But starting yesterday, she seemed like a different person. Not only had the old sharpness and spite vanished, her words and actions were completely unlike before. She wore clean clothes, her hair was washed, and there was no strange smell anymore. The little wolf cub recalled the memory of this woman ripping off his wolf tail before, and a flash of ferocity crossed his eyes. No matter what, today was their only chance to get rid of that vicious woman. No matter how delicious the food, he absolutely wouldn't give in. Thinking this, he couldn't help but rub the eye on his left side that was obscured by a scar. For some reason, since yesterday his eyes and tail had been tingling faintly, an itch he couldn't quite scratch. Bai Shui was about to find a chance to speak when she saw the little wolf pup rubbing his eyes and hurriedly asked, "Are you feeling unwell? I see you all have injuries." The little wolf pup set down his bowl and chopsticks, looking pitiful. "Sister, can you help us? Headmistress Mama is very strict. We always have to be beaten before we get food. Little Tiger had a fever yesterday." Bai Shui seized the opportunity and hurriedly pressed, "What's going on? Were you really abused?" She glared at Bai Su sternly. "Sister, how could you do this? All these years I thought you'd reformed, but instead you've gotten worse and changeable to the end. How can you be so heartless and cruel?" Bai Shui's expression was furious as she itemized the original owner's past evils one by one, eager to smear her thoroughly. The little wolf cub felt a bit speechless. Seeing the woman getting increasingly off topic, he had to speak up in time to remind her, "Sister, what are we going to do then?" Bai Shui looked at the little wolf cub, her face wearing an air of righteousness. "Don't worry, we'll find you a new orphanage. There are a few orphanages that still have openings. There's a shelter specifically for feline humanoids, one for lupin humanoids. Hearing they would be separated, the two little cat humanoids hurriedly grabbed the wolf cub's clothing hem. Little dog brother. A flash of sharpness crossed the little wolf cub's eyes as his mind quickly spun with ideas. His plan was to drive this headmaster away and replace him with one who was responsible and good to them, not to have them torn apart and sent away. They can't go. If they leave, the other little beast folk who were sold away will have no way to find their way home. Bai Shui turned to look at Lu Tingyan. Commander Lu, then please detain my sister and take her to the Federal Bureau. She eagerly called in the Bai family's bodyguards from outside and made a show of surrounding the entire parlor. But no one was willing to touch Bai Su, this astonishingly fat female. Bai Su leisurely finished her meal and put down her chopsticks. You say I abused people, where's the evidence? You just know how to shout at the top of your lungs. Do you think this is a vegetable market where the loudest person is always right? Bai Shui's face darkened. She had underestimated this bitch. Once meek and submissive, now her mouth was so sharp. In front of Lu Tingyan, Bai Shui swallowed her anger and forced a perfectly measured look of helplessness and reproach onto her face. Sister, don't lie. Their bodies are full of wounds. How can you still say you didn't do it? Bai Su folded her arms. I told you to bring evidence. Can't you understand plain talk? Bai Shui righteously reprimanded. The Federation will of course investigate the evidence. Go to the station and submit to questioning. The bodyguards closed in step by step, about to move forward. Bai Su coldly swept them with a glance, pondering whether to have the system put a little self-defense gadget on credit. Lu Tingyan suddenly spoke up beside her, then have the injuries examined. If Bai Su struck someone, there would be evidence on the wounds. The little wolf cub's pupils suddenly contracted at the words. After all, he was still too young. Having grown up in an orphanage, he hadn't seen the world and didn't know that outside technology could determine the cause of an injury from the wound. Lu Tingyan extended a long finger wearing a white glove and waved toward the door. He had spoken, so the Bai family's bodyguards naturally couldn't refuse and had to step back to the side. Two people in federal police uniforms came in carrying instruments, holding devices and scanning the little Beastman. The little wolf cub panicked inwardly, instinctively wanting to dodge. Suddenly, he sharply felt an extremely dangerous gaze fall upon him. The little wolf cub looked up and met Lu Tingyan's sharp, icy eyes. He froze instantly, feeling as if his thoughts had been laid bare and exposed before that person. The guard respectfully presented the data to Lu Tingyan. Report, Colonel. The injury examination shows the wounds were self-inflicted. There is no trace of Bai Su having acted. Bai Shui widened her eyes. How is that possible? Is your equipment malfunctioning? The kitten and the little tiger both showed guilty expressions at the same time, and hurriedly hid behind the little wolf cub. It's all because Director Mom fed them that tasty porridge yesterday that their wounds inexplicably healed. Without injuries, there's no evidence. So they beat themselves, leaving some wounds. The little wolf cub watched the guard and Lu Tingyan warily. Bai Shui cried out anxiously, "This is impossible. Sister, are you up to some scheme? Did you purposely force them to beat each other up to satisfy your perverse sadistic cravings?" Bai Su looked at her as if she were an idiot. Lu Tingyan withdrew his gaze from the children. The farce ends here. Let's go. Bai Shui grabbed Lu Tingyan unwillingly. Principal Lu. Check again. Search that orphanage, there might be evidence. My sister, really. Enough. Lu Tingyan brushed her hand away, his eyes full of frost. Miss Bai, I don't have time to play these scheming games with you. Lu Tingyan led his men and climbed into the car in a grand procession. Bai Shui had no choice. She shot Bai Su a sullen glare and also turned to leave. Before leaving, Lu Tingyan rolled down the car window, his gaze landing on Bai Su, a meaningful glint flashing in his eyes. Chapter 4. The little wolf cub throws a tantrum. After everyone had been sent off, the orphanage was left with only Bai Su and a few children. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Bai Su glared at the few little brats. Am I torturing you? The little wolf cub warily sheltered the people behind him, watching Bai Su defensively. It was my idea. If you want to punish someone, punish me. Baisu's face darkened as she swept her gaze over the children, then suddenly slammed her hand down on the table. You lot have grown bold. With a loud bang, the children were startled by her pounding on the table. Baisu's eye twitched. Her palm burned from pressing too hard, but she couldn't show it and had to keep up the pressure. Are you looking to get yourselves killed? How dare you have someone come and investigate me? Do you think I don't know what you're up to? All of you are getting itchy to act out. Do I have to beat you until your heads are split and bleeding before you'll stop? If I don't beat you for 3 days, the roof will be torn off. If I don't beat you, you go and indulge in that self-harming nonsense again. What a bunch of idiots. She slammed down several bowls, which made the children shiver again. The little wolf cub shielded the smaller ones behind him, silently bearing Baisu's wrath. The others closed their eyes, already prepared to be beaten up. The kitchen fell into a deathly silence. The little ones' hearts were pulled tighter and tighter, growing more and more anxious. The timid kitten was already beginning to tremble. When Baisu saw the effect, she finally said coldly, "Since you lot caused me such a big mess, you're punished with washing the dishes and cleaning the kitchen today. If it's not cleaned properly, you don't get to sleep." The little wolf cub waited a long time, not expecting such a light, perfunctory punishment. He suddenly looked up at Baisu, his eyes full of incomprehension. The kids couldn't help but glance at each other. Just like that? What kind of punishment was this? Baisu ignored them and, having eaten her fill, went back to her room. As a successful entrepreneur, she knew exactly how to manipulate people's minds. First, provoke consumers' emotions with price hikes. When their emotions were high and tense, instead of raising prices further, cut them in half. That way consumers would have an even stronger impulse to buy. Handling the children was the same. She deliberately imitated the original woman's act of throwing a big tantrum, making the kids think they were doomed today. She raised her voice high, then softened it, and finally just lightly let them do the dishes. The huge drop in expectations would make them more likely to change their view of her. Baisu couldn't wait to return to her room, mostly to take a bath. Every time she finished eating, her body expelled a very fine bit of black residue, as if she hadn't bathed for months and grime had accumulated on her skin. Downstairs, the little wolf cub saw there was still food in the kitchen, conferred with the kitten and the others, and secretly took the food back to give to the little tiger. The little tiger had already gotten much better, though he still had a bit of a cough. He asked about today's operation. The little wolf cub shook his head. It failed. The little kitten couldn't help whispering, "Actually, I think Headmistress Mom is pretty good now. She not only makes us tasty food, she doesn't hit us anymore." The little tiger was about to speak, but the little wolf frowned and glared at him. "Idiot. That's because she found out ahead of time that we reported her for abusing the little beast people. She was putting on a show on purpose for those adults." The kitten didn't understand, but the adults left, and she still didn't hit us. The wolf pup snorted coldly. She only restrained herself because she saw we had the ability to call the authorities. Just wait and see, she'll go back to her old ways after a while. You can't teach a dog not to eat shit. The kitten objected softly. "But she's a Holland Lop, not a dog." The little wolf cub glared at him. The kitten silently closed his mouth. The little tiger suddenly said, "Actually, I also feel like Director Mama seems different." Seeing that they had all been bought off by that dead woman's meager bribes, the little wolf cub couldn't help sulking. He turned and ran out. Passing by Baisu's door, he unexpectedly bumped into her just as she was opening it. He collided with her completely unprepared. He smelled a faint, fresh fragrance, like a peach just washed in a mountain stream, cool, crisp, with a sweet tart fruitiness. Baisu's quick hands grabbed him to keep him from falling. The little wolf cub instantly tensed, watching her warily. "Sorry, Director Mama." Baisu held him up. "In such a hurry, where are you going?" The little wolf cub saw her gentle, amiable expression, and couldn't help remembering how his companions had distrusted him earlier, which made him even angrier. He mustered his courage and pulled his hand away from Baisu's. "Mind your own business." He turned and ran downstairs. Baisu shook her head and didn't chase after him. She flipped through the original owner's memories, and found that the little wolf cub had originally been a wolf beastman with very good talent. At only 7 or 8 years old, it had already awakened to level 5, and it even mastered the innate skill wolf claw rend. But because it was abused by the original owner, its tail was forcibly torn off, and its level could no longer increase. For Beastman, the animal form carries the majority of their power. Being unable to further awaken its talent was also a psychological barrier for the little wolf cub. His other emotional knot was his gouged-out left eye. Pleasing this little cub was simple. Just fix the trouble the original owner caused. She had healing abilities, so that wasn't a worry. That little wolf cub ran out and hasn't come back yet. It was getting later and later. She was about to go look when she suddenly saw a little wolf cub skulking and hiding behind the big tree not far from the orphanage gate. Baisu. She turned and went into the kitchen, planning to make 2 bowls of mushroom, shrimp, and shredded chicken noodles to serve as a late-night snack. The fresh, savory aroma kept wafting from the kitchen. A wolf's sense of smell has always been keen. The little wolf cub swallowed, couldn't help poking its head out from behind the stump, staring toward the kitchen. The kitchen door wasn't closed. Warm, dim light spilled out from inside, barely illuminating a small triangular patch at the doorway. Through the narrow kitchen door a long dining table could be seen. Baisu set 2 bowls of noodles down on the table, directly facing the direction of the door. The little wolf cub quickly and warily retreated back behind the tree stump. Baisu sat down with her back to him and sighed softly. Why hasn't that little wolf cub come back yet? If it sits in clumps it'll stop tasting good. Her voice was low, like someone murmuring in a dream. The little wolf cub behind the tree stump twitched its ears. It heard every word clearly. Baisu wasn't hurried either. She leisurely ate from her bowl of noodles. Smells so good. It seems my skills have improved. She had enough confidence in her culinary skills. In her past life in Huagua, where delicacies were everywhere, she was able to build her own restaurant empire with nothing but her excellent cooking. All the more so in the interstellar beast world. A true culinary desert millions of times worse than Hang City. Sure enough, within 5 minutes the little wolf cub couldn't hold on anymore. He walked in as if by accident, and went to the stove to pour himself a drink. A smile flickered in Baisu's eyes as she said gently, "Finally back? Are you hungry? Come have a bowl of noodles. I made this late-night snack just for you." When the little wolf cub heard this, both his ears shot up and his half-broken tail wagged wildly behind him. Ahem. Baisu was so overwhelmed by the cuteness, she went a little pale, nearly suppressing a squeal as she lunged forward to nuzzle him. As a businesswoman, she could be ruthlessly uncompassionate about everything except anything furry. No one in the world can refuse something furry. The little wolf cub didn't know what Baisu was thinking. He just turned his head and put on a reluctant expression. Not eating it would be a waste, so I'll have a little. His eagerness to sit down betrayed his hypocrisy. Chapter 5. The home was stolen. The next day, Baisu slept soundly, pulled back the bed curtain, and took a breath of fresh air. Last night she had already made a plan. Her main task now was to first get herself and the pups properly fed and cared for. This body of hers was too fat, and it had no fertility. That was what struck her as the strangest. In the original owner's memories, she had been fertile. But after coming here, she suddenly lost the ability to bear children. The original owner stayed here, with a few children, and so she conveniently opened a mountaintop orphanage. A few months in the middle seemed to be blank from memory. She didn't believe there was nothing suspicious. The system told her that her healing ability could restore her fertility, but it would take some time. Coincidentally, the little wolf cub wanted to regain its health and also needed food. So she decided to go down the mountain early in the morning to gather fresh food. In the interstellar beast world, fresh unprocessed food is very cheap. In contrast, various canned goods and nutrient concentrates are priced higher. The price difference is roughly like that between gem ore and finished jewelry. That actually made things easier for her. It just so happened that the original owner had little money, only able to receive the Federation subsidy of 3,000 a month to make ends meet. This was also why the original owner had sold several children before. What Baisu hadn't expected was that just after she came down from the orphanage on the mountaintop to the city to buy supplies, the orphanage got into trouble. A noisy crowd came down from another mountain path, just missing Baisu. With a loud bang, the orphanage gate at the top of the mountain was kicked open. A few fierce, murderous orcs burst in, carrying clubs. Baisu, you bitch, come out for me. The orcs all looked simian, nearly 2 meters tall, with incredibly developed muscles, hair standing on end, and their arms covered in dense fine fur. One of the orcs casually brought his club down and cracked the nearby stone dining table. The little wolf cub upstairs who heard the commotion calmly ran down, his gaze unusually steady. Who are you looking for? Who else? The leading orc sneered, grabbing his collar. Bring that stinking bitch Baisu out for me. She still owes me for the bet. Where does she think she can dodge payment? The little wolf cub frowned. She went out early this morning. If you want to find her, come back later. To the orcs, his composed, steady expression was without a doubt a provocation. The orc immediately hoisted him high and hurled him to the ground like a sandbag. The little wolf cub gave a muffled groan, feeling as if his insides had been mashed to pulp. The suffocating pain made his vision go dark. The lead orc glanced around with a nasty look. Search them. Take whatever's worth anything, smash the rest. Make that stinking woman learn our power. The other orcs, hearing this, grew even more enthusiastic. Yes. They acted like bandits, kicking aside the small curled-up wolf boy and ransacking the orphanage. Upstairs, a few little ones wanted to rush down, but were stopped by a single look from the wolf cub. But after all, they were still children and thought far too simply. The savage beastmen finished looting and smashing the first floor, and soon went up to the second. The tiger cub and the 2 little kitten cubs couldn't escape either. They were hauled down the stairs by the collars of their coats. The little wolf cub's face was ashen. He staggered and struggled, trying to stand. The beastmen came down the stairs smugly. These little beasts are not bad, fair-skinned, well-formed limbs. Should fetch a good price. The little wolf cub gritted his teeth and lunged. What you're doing is illegal. Cough cough. Illegal? The leader sneered. I, Wang Biao, am the law in this part of the outskirts. You little cripple dare defy me? He kicked the little wolf cub away with disgust. The small, gaunt body rolled several times, smashing hard into the corner. Blood gushed from its mouth and nose, looking especially pitiful. The pups cried in fear, Big dog brother. Big dog brother, don't worry about us. Wah. Bad people, let us go. Wang Biao sneered and poked the little cubs' bellies with his stick. Since your headmistress owes me money if she can't pay, of course she can use you to settle the debt. This isn't the first time she's done this. Brothers, let's go. Sell these cubs. We'll feast big tonight. The little wolf cub struggled to crawl up, blood gushing from his mouth, spilling all over the ground. He stared fixedly at the cub struggling in the orc's hands, his gaze so dark and terrifying. But he was simply too small, so small that no matter how hard he tried he couldn't resist at all. So small that he actually found himself hoping that woman would rush back and save them. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. The little wolf cub could no longer hold on, and fainted on the spot. Baisu rushed back around lunchtime and saw a scene of devastation. The little wolf cub lying in a pool of blood. Her vision went black, and she immediately felt that something was very wrong. The little wolf cub was exhaling heavily and inhaling little, looking like he was about to croak. She couldn't worry about being dirty. She boiled water herself, mixed in some lukewarm mineral water, and fed it to the cub. Only when she saw the wounds on his body improving did she finally relax. Luckily, water boiled by her personally also had healing powers. The wolf cub slowly opened his eyes and saw her close by. He shoved her away sharply. You came back on purpose? Baisu frowned. What on earth is going on? Wolf cub, Little Hu and the others were taken away to be held as debt payment. Are you satisfied now? Baisu quickly recovered, her expression turning serious. Who did it? Do you know them? The little wolf cub glared at her darkly, as if he might lunge and tear her apart at any moment. Baisu grabbed his collar and said coldly, If I were you, I wouldn't waste time blaming anyone. Rescue the person first, talk later. The little wolf cub was furious enough to want to kill her, but he also knew she was right. So he forced down his anger and recalled the morning. I don't know who they are. I only know one of them is called Wang Biao. Baisu flipped through her memory and had a rough idea who it was. She raised her right hand and used the smart wristband on it to report to the police first. On the Beast World star system, The beast folk rely on the intelligent wristband on their hands to communicate. The intelligent wristband is a combination of phone and computer. It is operated by brainwaves, commonly called mind control, and is very simple to use. Moreover, the bracelets for males and females are different. Although she is an exiled female, the Federation would still prioritize responding when they receive her distress call. A hint of meaning flashed in Baisu's eyes as she grabbed the little wolf cub from the ground. Come with me. It will take the Federation a while to respond. Well, go delay them first and stop them. The little wolf cub froze. Are you really going to save them? Baisu had already reached the door. Once Wang Biao takes them to the port for the passage to the open sea, there'll be no saving them. The little wolf cub hurriedly followed after him. Chapter 6: Rescuing the Children. When the two arrived at the harbor, Wang Biao was negotiating with a few crewmen. Several little cubs were confined in a cage, huddled together, their little faces ashen with fear. There weren't any visible wounds on their faces. They probably hadn't been harmed to fetch a better price. The little wolf cub frowned worriedly. What should we do? Baisu. What do you mean, what should we do? Just do it. The little wolf cub. Before he could react, Baisu had already rushed forward. Stop. Baisu blocked the cages holding the cubs. You bastard Wang Biao. How dare you traffic people? Did you get my permission to sell my children? Wang Biao sneered when he saw her. Oh. You came crawling back, did you? Owe me money and still try to renege? These little beast people are more than enough to cover your debt. He said that and tried to shove Baisu aside. Baisu clutched the cage tightly. These are my children. I'm not selling them. Wang Biao, if you lay a hand on them, I'll fight you to the death. She gave the little wolf cub a wink while rolling up her sleeves and rushing forward to scratch Wang Biao and the two sailors' faces, looking like a shrew. The little wolf cub hurriedly took advantage of the chaos to run over and untie the hemp rope on the cage, freeing several of the cubs. Seeing the little beast people trying to escape, Wang Biao, furious and humiliated, shoved the woman who was shrieking and squirming onto the ground. Get lost. Baisu, you stinking bitch. What the hell are you going crazy for? It's not like you've never sold before. Where the hell do you expect to get money to pay my debts if you want sell the kids? Baisu rolled and flailed on the ground to block their way. I won't sell them anyway. These children are my lifeblood and even think about laying a hand on them. She clung to Wang Biao's leg like a piece of old chewing gum. When the nearby crewmen tried to pursue, she tripped their legs. A few of the orcs were big and burly, not that they couldn't beat her, but since she was a female, they didn't dare lay a hand on her. After all, an exiled female is still a female. Females are the rarest and most precious in the galaxy. Harming a female is a serious crime, and jail time would be the mildest punishment. Restricted and awkward, she really was tripped up by Baisu. She watched as the children were about to run off. Wang Biao, humiliated and furious, lifted his foot to kick her hand away, but didn't expect Baisu to suddenly throw her whole body forward. His kick landed directly on her chest. Baisu stumbled backward, her head striking the iron bollard at the dock, a large gash opening on her forehead. The two sailors, seeing this, quickly took several steps back, looking like they wanted to distance themselves from the situation. Wang Biao's face also showed panic. Angrily and frantically he shouted, "It's not my fault. You slut rushed up yourself." The little wolf cub turned at the noise and saw Baisu's chubby body blocking several tall, mighty males. She had fallen to the ground, a gash on her forehead, her face deathly pale. Baisu recovered enough to sway her head, her body staggering as she blocked them. "I don't care, but you are not allowed to touch my children." She was so weak her voice was almost like a mosquito. The little wolf pup pressed his lips together, a struggle flickering in his eyes. He came to an abrupt halt and looked at the little ones. "You all find a safe place to hide for now. When the police arrive, it'll be safe. I'm going back to save her." The little wolf pup rushed back, standing in front of Baisu, glaring darkly at Wang Mang. "Get lost. You big oaf who only knows how to howl." Wang Biao was being tormented by Baisu and had nowhere to vent his simmering anger. Seeing the little wolf pup step forward on its own, he flew into a rage. His broad palm turned into sharp ape-like claws and suddenly snatched at him. "Little wolf pup!" Baisu cried out. abruptly scooping the little one into his plump arms, turning his back to block Wang Biao's attack with his own. Ugh. Baisu felt a searing pain in her back, her face went deathly pale, and she slowly collapsed. Director Mama. The little wolf cub's pupils suddenly contracted. The federal police finally arrived and witnessed Wang Biao assaulting a female. Wang Biao was stunned with fear. He never expected this woman to rush at him on her own. The federal police detained him. Wang Biao shook his head in fright. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. She ran into me herself. I didn't mean to hit her. The one I wanted to hit was that little brat. But it was already too late. Harming a female in front of federal police was enough to convict him outright. Wang Biao was taken away. Baisu and the several little cubs were sent to the hospital. By the time they finished dealing with everything and returned to the orphanage, 3 days had passed. Baisu benefited from the misfortune and received compensation from Wang Biao, plus an extra batch of supplies. System. Actually, you could have waited for the federal police to act and then made your move, and you wouldn't have been hurt. Baisu hooked the corner of her mouth and said nothing. She had deliberately used Wang Biao as part of a self-inflicted suffering ruse. She was worrying about how to rehabilitate her image, and Wang Biao walked right up to her. Wouldn't it be a shame not to take advantage of it? So when they reached the dock, she deliberately stormed out to anger Wang Biao, deliberately made a scene and raised a fuss. When Wang Biao shoved her, she intentionally fell backward and banged her head. When she was discharged and returned to the orphanage, she found the 4 little ones standing in the living room, anxious and cautious. The damaged area had already been repaired by the Federation. The little ones stood in the living room, too afraid to sit, staring at Baisu with pleading eyes. She glanced at them amusedly. Hungry? I'll go cook for you. Do you still want lotus leaf chicken? Yes. Little Who couldn't help it and shouted out loudly. The other 3 all gave him a sharp look in unison. Little Tiger shrank his neck. Don't want to. Baisu was momentarily stunned, unable to stop her brows from arching up high. She's already like this, and these little brats still haven't let down their guard? The kitten looked up at Bai Cha ingratiatingly and wiped the sofa. Director Mommy, please sit down. Another kitten also cautiously and awkwardly handed over a cup of water. Director Mommy. Have some water. Baisu looked at them and quickly understood what was going on. She couldn't help laughing and calmly accepted their kindness. The little wolf cub looked at her awkwardly, as if he wanted to say something but felt too embarrassed to do so. Baisu glanced at the cubs. All right, you're not hungry, but I'm going to cook first. The little ones had no choice but to follow her with yearning eyes. Baisu knew this was a good opportunity, so while washing vegetables and preparing ingredients she said, You must be very curious why I've been different lately, right? I know I treated you all very badly before, but lately I've been regretting it. You are all such well-behaved, cute little beast people. I want to live here with you and take good care of you. Whether you believe it or not, you have to allow that a bad person might suddenly wake up and want to become a good person, right? The few young little ones seemed to understand. More or less. Baisu didn't expect them to understand. She was speaking to the little wolf pup. He was the oldest among these little ones and could understand. Sure enough, a little wolf pup's voice sounded from behind soon after. Director Mama, thank you for saving them the other day. Baisu waved her hand with a smile. All right, let's get along peacefully from now on and build up the orphanage properly, okay? I promise, as long as you behave from now on, I won't hit you anymore. The little wolf pup remained silent, but the other little ones were very happy. Director Mama doesn't hit people. We're the most obedient little beastlings. Baisu knew that until the little wolf cub's wounds healed, he wouldn't be able to let go. She had saved these people, and all she could earn in return was his not targeting them. This is enough. Baisu didn't want to be on guard against this little guy like a thief every day, worrying he might call the police and bring people to arrest her. Chapter 7 Lu Tinjian's Predicament. The little ones were all carnivorous beast people, so most of the dishes she made were meat-based. Baisu served lemon shrimp balls, tomato tenderloin, sweetened sour ribs, blueberry yam mash, and imitation crab with eggs. The little ones are all growing, and carnivores need to eat more meat to get enough nutrition. The kitten was already going crazy with hunger. Besides the cat ears and tail, The fur on its arms and cheeks couldn't help but start to sprout. The little tiger was excited too, hopping up and down in place. The little wolf cub was already trying hard to control his gaze, but his frantic swallowing of saliva still betrayed him. Baisu said amusedly, "All right, wash your hands and eat." The little ones hurried off to wash their hands and climbed up to the table to eat, even though they'd already eaten it several times before. Tasting something so delicious again made them unable to help gobbling it down. Baisu felt the fondness those little ones had for her was about to turn into something tangible and float out. After the meal, she called the wolf pups into the room. The little ones looked at her anxiously. Baisu said with amusement, "All right, I have something to say. It's not about beating Anyoni Haven't I already promised you that I don't beat people?" The little ones only stared longingly at the wolf cub, and only after he nodded did they hesitantly turn to leave. The excitement that had been on her face while eating a moment ago had completely vanished. Baisu shook her head. It seemed her path to establishing authority was still a long way off. The wolf cub followed her into the room, somewhat restrained and a little nervous. "Director Mama, did you call for me?" Baisu nodded. She was going to come clean with the little wolf cub. If she intended to be kind to someone, she naturally had to let them know. People have mouths so they can speak. She looked at the little wolf cub. "These past few days, have you felt your eyes and tail itch every time you eat?" The little wolf cub was stunned at her words. "How did you know?" Baisu rubbed his head. "Because it's my doing. I recently awakened a new healing ability. As long as the food I make is eaten, it will carry the corresponding healing effect. If you eat the meals I make every day, your eyes will slowly regain sight, and your tail will grow back." The little wolf cub couldn't quite believe it. "The eyes and tail can get better?" Baisu nodded firmly. "Not only can they get better, they'll be even better than before. I know you don't trust me, but I still want you to give me a chance to reform. I truly regret it, and will never hurt you again. The past can't be undone, but for the future, I want to live here with you all properly." "Okay. Puppy, are you really going to cure me?" Baisu nodded. "Not only will I heal you, I'll heal myself too, and raise each of you to be plump, white, and healthy. However, my healing abilities should be kept low-key for now. Don't go telling others casually." The little wolf cub's face was full of discomfort. "Then why did you tell me?" He still wasn't used to making peace and calmly conversing with his former abuser. "Baisu, because among these children, you are the oldest, the smartest, the most responsible, and the most charismatic." The four flattered him so much that the stump of the little wolf cub's tail behind him perked up. A trace of awkwardness crossed his childish face, and his wolf ears on his head twitched. "Got it, oh, keep your secret." Baisu looked at him with a smile. "Then let's make a deal. It'll help heal your wounds if you forgive me, okay? We'll protect the children here together, and build a warm home." Her face was chubby, but her eyes were very big. Even with her face full of chubby flesh, she looked clean and fresh. You could tell her features were small and delicate. You have to understand, a plump person smiling at someone is far less threatening than a thin person. It's as if chubby people naturally come with a friendliness that makes others take a liking to them and let their guard down. The little wolf pup met her smiling eyes and, after a long moment, finally nodded. "All right, you keep your word." Baisu relaxed and said, "It's a deal." The next day, an explosive piece of news suddenly shot up the trending list. The strongest snowwolf beast spirit in the Federation back then, 9th level Beastman Lu Tinjian's mental power suddenly regained a trace. It was said that a soldier had personally seen Colonel Lu go to the training ground to try using his mental power. There were very slight fluctuations in spiritual energy on his body. It should be known that back then Commander Lu was the most powerful beastman in the Federation. With him in command, beastmen from other countries didn't dare invade the Federation. Native-born Federation beastmen, as long as they carried Federation identification, could go anywhere handling affairs, doing business, touring or otherwise, and walk down the main streets with heads held high and hands on hips in pride. But ever since that battle 4 years ago, Commander Lu's spiritual power was destroyed. After he abdicated in favor of a worthy successor, the Federation has been declining year by year. Among them, the most affected was the Lu family. The Lu family is the largest clan in the Federation, and the ruling leading family. When Lu Tingyan abdicated and passed the mantle years ago, his uncle, 7th-rank Snow Wolf Lu Jinghua, rose to take the leadership. The Snow Wolf beast people of Lu Tingyan's branch have been in decline these past few years, suppressed by Lu Zhengguo's faction. Back then, the key positions in the Ministry of Defense were all carefully chosen by Lu Tingyan. But after Lu Jinghua took office, he replaced them all with his own cronies. This is also why the military faction in the Federation has been weak in recent years. When the news broke, Lu Tingyan was handling work in his office at the Ministry of Defense. After abdicating, he has been in the Federation managing the mundane affairs of city defense. The office door was pushed open, and a Snowwolf Beastman with beady eyes barged in. The guard at the door looked awkward. Cadet Lu He. Lu Tingyan glanced at his cousin Lu Yanhua and said coldly to the guard, "It's fine, go out." The office door was closed. Lu Yanhua snorted, took off his jacket and casually tossed it on the desk, sat down beside him and propped his legs up on the desk. "Cousin, you hide away in this office every day and seem pretty comfortable, huh?" Lu Tingyan, face cold, pulled the file his foot was pressing out. "I'm busy." "Say what you need." Lu Yanhua tooted. "What are you pretending for?" "If it weren't for my dad kindly keeping your post at the military department, do you think you could still sit comfortably in an office? A useless beast man with no spiritual power, blind in one eye, can't even support himself relying on my dad to get a job and earn those few 10,000 yuan a month? It's only because your cousin May's kind-hearted that I let you stay here as a parasite of the Federation. Otherwise I'd have kicked you out to sleep on the street long ago." Lu Tingyan was already used to this. He just lowered his head and focused on his work, too lazy to pay him any mind. Lu Yanhua clicked his tongue twice, very displeased, snatched the papers from his hand and slapped them down on his face with a smack. "You still think you're the Federation leader from back then? What are you putting on airs in front of this young master? It's just a menial job in the Federation, and you act like you're so awesome?" Lu Tingyan's face flushed red, a burning sting spreading across it. He closed his eyes, picked the file up, and continued processing it. Lu Yanhua spat. "What a pathetic dog. Doesn't even know how to bark, boring." He suddenly leaned in, rudely grabbed Lu Tingyan by the collar, and slapped his face in a humiliating way. "You're only got that face going for you. I had my dad find a good place for you. You're in your 30s. You should have a female. It just so happens July's family lost their male. You can go be her mate." Chapter 8. Missing Memories. Female beasts are rare in the interstellar beast world. To continue the beast race, every female in the Federation is legally allowed to have 7 males. The 7 males jointly work to raise the female. But someone like Lu Tingyan, who can't even support himself, simply has no ability to sustain a female or contribute to the household, even if a female were willing to marry him. Once he entered her home, he would be rejected and bullied by the other males. Life would only become worse than it is now. Lu Tingyan didn't speak. He silently continued to look at the documents in his hands. Lu Yanhua found it boring, spat once and turned to leave. The office was left with only him. Lu Tingyan calmly stared at the documents, and after confirming their contents he signed them with composure. But the bulging veins on the back of his hand betrayed his emotions. Lu Tingyan suddenly threw his pen aside, took a deep breath and leaned back, tugging at the tie around his neck with his other hand. The hand with the bulging veins didn't need to exert force for its explosive power to be easily seen. After all, he was once the strongest orc in the Federation. His gaze fell on the documents on the table, his eyes flickering. The documents were an application sent by the Suburban Construction Department to incorporate the mountaintop orphanage into the public domain. Attached were a series of requests for public domain renovations, house repairs, and so on. He stared at his hand. There was no fluctuation of psychic energy in his palm. But the feeling he had at the mountaintop orphanage that day couldn't be wrong. It was psychic energy beginning to bud. He really needed to go once more. At the corner corridor outside the office, Lu Yanhua hadn't gone far, and was speaking softly on the phone. "Dad, I tried. It doesn't seem to have recovered. There's no spiritual energy fluctuation from him at all. I humiliated him, and he didn't react. I told him he should go and be July's beast husband. Julie is already in her 50s. He had no reaction at all when he found out.
Okay, don't worry, Dad.
Oh, keep monitoring him. Baisu yawned, staring at the construction crew who had made such a fuss coming here so early. She was so sleepy her eyes were watering. The people watching from downhill had gathered in a circle outside. Unwilling to believe that the orphanage, which had been classified outside the Federation's territory, was going to be incorporated into the Federation. I heard it's because a female got injured over here, so the Federation wants to tighten control over this area. I also heard recently about a case of child orc abuse. Huh. What's there to control? Lock up Wang Biao and Baisu. Those two cancerous elements. And want this place be peaceful? You won't believe it. I ran into Baisu a few days ago. She's like a different person. She actually went down the mountain to buy groceries to cook for the kids. It scared me to death. That female is notorious for being vicious in our area. What does she even know about buying things? Did you hear wrong? Is it cooking for the kids or cooking the kids? Everyone burst out laughing. Baisu was busy arguing with Lu Tingyan. You brought people to do construction during this time, and you expect me to take care of your meals? Lu Tingyan's assistant nodded. Yes, Miss Bai, because the orphanage on the mountaintop is hard to get to. It's a bit difficult for the construction crew to arrange food over here. Baisu snorted with anger. Do you have any idea how hard it is to cook for such a huge, chaotic crowd? I also have little children to look after. I'm not your cook. I didn't beg you to come do the construction, so if you don't want to finish it, then get out, get out, get out. The assistant was a bit dumbfounded. Had never seen such a rude woman. In his impression, females were pampered buds raised in greenhouses, speaking in soft, gentle voices, with meek personalities and an air of aristocratic elegance bred by wealth. Not like the female in front of him. Fat, loud, coarse, blunt, and vulgar. Though she was indeed a bit fat, her eyes were surprisingly beautiful, big and bright, pretty like pebbles sparkling in a summer stream. Clean and clear. The assistant glanced awkwardly at his boss. Then had no choice but to grit his teeth and negotiate again. If that's not possible, how about you only take care of Colonel Lu on land? I'll find another way to deal with these workers. Baisu sized up Lu Tingyan from head to toe. A few hints of wariness and irritation on her face. You have to pay if you come to eat here. I'm raising a child. I don't have money to let your colonel eat for free every day. The assistant was sweating profusely. Although his boss was a fallen noble Beastman, bullied in the military department, he hadn't sunk so low as to be criticized and scorned by civilians, had he? He hesitated, unsure how to handle it, when Lu Tingyan's deep, distant voice sounded. Fine. Baisu raised the stakes. Also, you can't eat in the orphanage. Bring a lunchbox. I'll pack you some food, and you can go find somewhere else to eat. How can you women be so disrespectful? The assistant couldn't help but get angry at the side. Isn't this just a way of shooing beggars away? Baisu crossed her arms, looking particularly arrogant. Eat or not? Don't eat, then get lost? Lu Tingyan's eyes deepened slightly. Eat. The aide stared at his colonel in shock, utterly baffled. Usually the colonel was a bit ineffectual at headquarters, but that was because the headquarters were full of big shots with ranks. There was nothing he could do about it. But this little female in front of him was a banished female. Although she would soon no longer be a drifter, she'd still only be a commoner. Why would the colonel bring something to the door just to be humiliated? At worst, he could bring a can and some nutrient paste up every day himself. That would be enough. But the colonel's thoughts were something he could never figure out. And the thing the colonel hated most was subordinates questioning his decisions. Once he had made a decision, no one could change it. Only then was Baisu satisfied. She turned and returned to the orphanage, closing the gate behind her. A few little cubs inside were having breakfast. The little wolf cub's face had cleared up considerably. The scar on his left eye was much smaller than before, and it looked like his eyelid would soon be able to open a bit. Baisu looked at him. That supervisor from the mainland will be coming to oversee things recently. Bai Xiaoling, you'll serve him meals from now on. Bai Xiaoling was the name she had given the little wolf cub. Previously, the original owner had humiliated him, forcing everyone to call him little dog. Since she intended to completely leave the past behind, of course she would change what he was called as well. The little wolf cub's beast form prototype was a small snow-white wolf through and through. Since her surname happened to be Bai, she gave him that simple, blunt name. Bai Xiaoling nodded and went back to burying his face in his food. Once he found out that eating could heal his wounds, he became the most enthusiastic eater at the orphanage, the werewolf who ate the most. Bai Su returned to her room and lay down on the bed, but her eyes were clear and bright. Lu Tingyan took the bait. She knew he would definitely come. Someone who'd held a high position could never be content to remain a worthless nobody forever. As long as there was even the slightest chance, he would seize it without hesitation. But Lu Tingyan was meticulous in his thinking. If she fawned over him, Lu Tingyan would surely guess that she had deliberately cooked that day to get his attention. So the more she distanced herself from Lu Tingyan, the more relaxed his guard became, and the more he believed she had no ill intent. She could feel Lu Tingyan's disgust toward her. But clearly in the original owner's memory, she had never had any interaction with Lu Tingyan in her entire life. His loathing came for no reason. The only reason she could think of was that something had happened during the year of missing memories. Bai Su hated taking the blame for others more than anything. She must find out exactly what happened that year. Chapter 9. Approaching her for the sake of food. The sun was scorching, and the reconstruction of the orphanage was rather tedious. Not only did they need to rebuild the orphanage's walls and roof, but they also had to build roads from the foot of the mountain to the top to make travel easier. Bai Su saw they were working hard, so she bought bottled water and handed it out to them. Lu Tingyan sat under the tree, his face wearing the same distant expression as always. His left eye had been gouged out. The wound extended to his left eyebrow, leaving a small broken patch. And the gaze hidden beneath the brim of his military cap was sullen and sharp. When he sat down like that, he felt like a personified danger, his presence extremely strong. Bai Su walked over holding a bottle of water and handed it to him. Here. Lu Tingyan glanced at the water in her hand, then looked away. I don't need it. Seeing him so thirsty yet still putting on airs, Bai Su couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth and shoved the water into his hand. Here, whatever, drink it or don't. Unexpectedly, Lu Tingyan reacted strongly, yanking the water from her hand and flinging her hand away as well. Don't touch me. Bai Su was startled. You. Lu Tingyan's face went pale. He suddenly turned his head, leaning against the stump and wanting to vomit. Bai Su. Was that really necessary? Lu Tingyan had indeed lost his composure a little. He showed displeasure at losing control of his physiology, politely distancing himself from Bai Su. Miss Bai, please don't touch me arbitrarily. Thank you. Bai Su. Do you hate me that much? Then don't eat the meals I make. A trace of disgust flashed in Lu Tingyan's eyes as he looked at her mockingly. Why would I hate you? Aren't you the one who knows best? Bai Su glanced at him without changing her expression. Whether you believe it or not, I've already reformed. I also hope you won't judge me now by the rights and wrongs of my past. Lu Tingyan looked as if he'd heard the biggest joke in the world. A storm suddenly rose in his eyes. But soon after, as if he'd thought better of it, he forcibly tamped the storm down. In short, Miss Bai, please don't touch me casually. Bai Su couldn't draw anything out of him. A flash of disappointment crossed her eyes. Anyway, I've said my piece, believe it or not, it's up to you. She turned to hand out water to the others. Thanks for your hard work, everyone. Have a bottle of water, and take a break. They're all been frozen. Don't be polite. She greeted them warmly while smilingly handing out water to everyone. The gaze from behind, belonging to Lu Tingyan, was overwhelmingly perceptible. She made a great effort to suppress the urge to turn around and look. She finished delivering the water, and only then returned to the orphanage. Under the tree, Lu Tingyan was still staring dreamily at her retreating figure. The assistant, who had somehow appeared beside him, couldn't help grinning at the sight. Indeed, Miss Bai is different from other females. I've never seen a female so poised and generous, really straightforward and decisive. Lu Tingyan clicked his tongue in displeasure and turned his head to glance at him. The assistant looked at him puzzled. Lu Tingyan took the water and turned to descend the mountain. Lieutenant Yoder, Lu Tingyan's adjutant, patted his shoulder sympathetically. You came late and don't know our colonel hates that expelled Miss Bai the most. You really managed to flatter the wrong person. The aide was stunned. Then why is our colonel so eager to eat the meals she cooks? And he was always staring absent-mindedly in Miss Bay's direction. He even thought his colonel had a thing for that little female. Yordle shrugged. Don't try to guess the colonel's thoughts. Assistant. I thought this female was different from other females, but it seems aside from being more cheerful and bold and acting poised in public, there's nothing else different. Just like those females who look down on people, she despises our Kolonelpthipth. Yordle glared at him speechlessly, backseat strategist. The assistant grinned. Everything is in service of the colonel. At noon, as usual, Baisu cooked some meat dishes, paired with a small amount of vegetables. Lu Tingyan really did give her food money. 3,000 yuan a day, enough for the children to eat meat until they were stuffed. With plentiful ingredients. She cooked with gusto. At noon she made several braised pomfret. This kind of fish has almost no small bones and has a great texture when eaten. She also made braised pork, braised beef brisket with quail eggs and potatoes, mouth-watering chicken koshueji, and several spicy meat dishes. For the beef brisket she specially used Sichuan hot pot seasoning. When it simmered on the stove the aroma filled the air. Outside, it drew quite a few workers who drooled while staring at her kitchen. The neighbors at the foot of the hill, there to watch the commotion, couldn't resist coming to her. Baisu, what's that smell coming from your kitchen? Why does it smell so good? I've never smelled meat this delicious, damn. Is that really meat? Baisu, you didn't stew all the kids in your yard, did you? Baisu waved her hand amusedly. Get out of here. It's illegal to eat children. This pot isn't even enough for our own kids. There's none left for you. The smell of food not only attracted the neighbors and the workers, but also tempted a few of the little cubs. The most enthusiastic about eating was Bai Xiaolang. He was always the first to rush down, wash his hands, and sit in the spot closest to the stove. Baisu glanced at him amusedly. If you want more rice, go help yourself. When you're full, take some out to give to Lu Shang outside. Ah. Little White Wolf obediently responded, staring at the mouth-watering chicken in Baisu's hand with pleading eyes. Baisu served all the dishes onto the table, and the few of them began to eat heartily. After so many days of her relentless efforts, the children had been fed until they were plump and tender, and her own skin had improved a lot. When she first transmigrated into the book she was a big, dark, fat woman. Now her skin was so white and tender it could practically be pinched for water. Ate already. Bai Xiaoling brought the lunchbox to Lu Tingyan. The overseer halfway up the mountain. He was sitting under a tree resting, watching the workers from afar. Bai Xiaoling walked over and silently handed the lunchbox to him. Captain Lu. Lu Tingyan took the meal and glanced at him. Thank you. This child looked a bit fairer than when he had arrived a few days ago, his eyes brighter, and the little wolf fangs at the corners of his mouth were quite nice, didn't look like an abused kid. Bai Xiaoling sat quietly beside him, waiting for him to finish eating. Because Lu Tingyan had given extra money for food, Baisu had specially bought him a lunchbox. Bai Xiaoling had to wait until he finished eating to take the lunchbox back to wash. Lu Tingyan had actually noticed him last time, because the injuries on this child were almost identical to his blind in the left eye and with a severed tail. But his upbringing wouldn't allow him to talk while eating, so he didn't ask. When the lunchbox was opened, a fragrant aroma wafted out. He hadn't expected Baisu to give him so much food. It was called a lunchbox, but it was actually a big bucket filled with braised pork, mouth-watering chicken, and stewed beef brisket, easily 5 or 6 jin while there wasn't much rice. The little white wolf beside him couldn't help swallowing and stared fixedly at his food. Lu Tingyan noticed his gaze, but didn't say anything. If this were before, he might have given the little one some food. But now it was different. He desperately needed this food to treat the wounds on his body. Lu Tingyan, smelling the enticing aroma, couldn't help swallowing and picked up a square piece of tender braised beef brisket and put it in his mouth. Immediately, a rich, spicy flavor exploded in his mouth. The brisket was cooked incredibly tender, soaked in the sauce. When he bit down, he even felt as if the beef brisket was bursting with juice. It smelled so good. Chapter 10. The Female's Temptation. He had never eaten such delicious meat before. Lu Tingyan tried another piece of braised pork in the pomfret, his eyes brightening again and again. Although his eating remained relatively graceful, the quicker pace exposed his impatience. Each time he swallowed, he could feel spiritual energy surfacing within his body. His left eye and tail were a little itchy too, like the feeling when a wound scab is about to heal. As expected, Baisu's food has healing properties. Even without healing effects, this food would still be top quality. This is absolutely the best meat he's ever eaten since childhood. As Lu Tingyan ate, an image inexplicably surfaced in his mind of Baisu earlier that morning, angrily negotiating with his assistant. Her eyes were bright and sparkling, easily evoking thoughts of a spring mountain stream, ice and snow melting, the creek babbling toward the earth, carrying a surge of vibrant life. Were her eyes always this beautiful? He seemed never to have noticed. That's not how you eat it. White Little Wolf's voice sounded beside him. He looked even more anxious than Lu Tingyan, as if he couldn't bear to see Lu Tingyan waste something good. Don't just eat the meat plain, braised pork should be eaten with rice. Mix the rice into the braised pork sauce, and eat it that way. Take a bite of rice wrapped with a big chunk of braised pork together. It's tastier that way. Lu Tingyan came to his senses and didn't argue. He simply did as the little one said. The snowy white, smooth rice soaked up the thick, sweet braised pork sauce. Putting the rice and the skin-on pork belly marbled with fat and lean into his mouth, the rich aroma and layered textures exploded in his mouth. The beef brisket had been marinated in some kind of spice exceptionally tender and fragrant, with the distinctive milky aroma of beef. The texture was superb. He usually disliked fish, whether canned or made into nutrient paste. There was always an indescribable fishy smell. He detested that smell. But the braised golden pomfret she made had not a trace of fishiness. He had never known that fish could be so fresh and sweet. Lu Tingyan was intoxicated by the aroma, his mind wanting to slow down to prolong the experience of tasting this delicious food, but his mouth disobeyed and kept eating faster. Having cleared everything from the lunchbox, he rubbed his belly and felt an unprecedented sense of relaxation. Since his psychic power was stripped away, he hadn't relaxed his mind like this in a long time. After the meal, his mental sea indeed showed faint signs of budding. The parched, barren soil even began to show signs of being moistened. After finishing the meal, Bai Xiaoling took the lunchbox. "We'll come deliver your meals again tomorrow." Lu Tingyan gave a slight nod. Bai Xiaoling walked out for a bit, then suddenly turned back, staring at him with a sullen face. Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow. "Bai Xiaoling, I don't care what your motives are for insisting on eating my Dean Mom's food, but I hope you'll shut your mouth and stop trying to make a move on her." It was the first time in Lu Tingyan's life that had been threatened by a little brat not even as tall as his waist. He looked at the little pup. The only remaining eye was very beautiful, the brow sharp, the gaze spirited. You could tell he would grow into a handsome fellow. He nodded slightly. "Don't worry, no one covets your Dean." Only then did Bai Xiaoling turn and leave. That evening, after dinner, Baisu changed into a light tracksuit and went out. This has been her recent daily routine. 2 hours after dinner every night, she goes out for a night run. You can't lose weight relying only on her food. There's too much fat and impurities on her body. If she wants to slim down quickly, it's best to pair it with proper exercise. Baisu ran all the way down from the mountaintop, not expecting the workers to still be at the site. She ran down, past the little shop, bought some water for everyone and carried it back up. Baisu carried the water to the roadside and called out, "I bought you water, remember to drink it." Hard work on the construction. The workers were overwhelmed with pleasure and hurriedly thanked her. "Thank you, Miss Bai. Thank you so much, I can't believe you even carried it up yourself." Baisu left brightly. She had just finished running and was covered in sweat. Her fair cheeks were noticeably flushed, and the fine beads of sweat looked like a shimmering dust on her delicate skin. The fresh peachy scent unique to Holland rabbits grew stronger after exercise, and the cool summer night breeze carried it into the workers' noses. Baisu had no idea how enticing she looked right now. She had only recently transmigrated, and hadn't yet adapted to a female body, forgetting that a female's scent has a deadly allure for males, especially since she was wearing thin sportswear. After a long summer night run she was drenched in sweat, her clothes clinging to her body, a wet patch darkening her chest. Although she was quite fat, she had been well cared for recently and looked pale and tender, her joints flushed with pink, and her chest was very ample. This had a deadly attraction for the males. The workers felt unbearably thirsty and hurriedly bent down to get water. Baisu had seriously underestimated how attractive this fat body was. Not only did she fail to notice their abnormality, she crouched down to hand them water, her wet eyes full of sincerely happy smiles. Here, I knew you'd be thirsty, it's so hot, and you're still working so late. It must be exhausting. It is pretty hard work. The workers hemmed and hawed. When they accidentally met her gaze, their mouths went dry and their tongues thick. And they didn't even know what to do with their hands. One male with poor self-control couldn't hold back. His beast ears popped up, his body temperature spiked. As if bewitched by Baisu, he went dazedly toward her and suddenly tried to grab her hand. Suddenly, a large palm reached in from the side, clamped onto the worker's hand, and shoved him backward. The atmosphere around them instantly dropped to a freezing point. The workers sobered up immediately and hurriedly lowered their heads in fright. Colonel. They had lost their heads just now, almost entertaining wicked thoughts toward a female. With the colonel standing right there, if they had scared this female, they would be held accountable. The Federation has a very comprehensive set of laws for the protection of females. If they had dared to act improperly toward a female in front of the colonel, it would have been a crime on top of a crime. Lu Tingyan swept a cold glance over the workers present. Even without saying a word, the deep eyes beneath the brim of his military cap carried the oppressive presence of someone naturally in command, terrifying everyone into not daring to look up. Baisu knew nothing and hurriedly said, "They weren't slacking off. I bought them water, that's why." Before she could finish, Lu Tingyan abruptly grabbed her and dragged her toward the mountain. He was surprisingly strong. The workers looked at each other, and once they came to their senses they couldn't help feeling a bit wistful. A faint scent of peach still lingered in the air. This cool, fruity aroma was especially refreshing in summer, making one's body and mind relax without intending to. "I don't think Miss Bai is as awful as the villagers down the mountain said," a worker murmured. Hearing this, the others couldn't help nodding and began discussing in a flurry of voices. "Yeah, she clearly seemed very friendly today." Exactly. Exactly what other female would care whether our work is hard or not? She even bought us water twice. She's basically an angel. From the look in her eyes I could tell Miss Bai is a kind person. Someone so good, how could she possibly mistreat children? Wasn't it said before that she was exiled here? I have a feeling there's more to it. Among the nobility there's plenty of scheming. Maybe she was framed by someone, and that's why she was exiled here. Chapter 11. Let the scent of the mountain road soak in. They walked a short distance before Lu Tingyan finally let go of her. "Baisu, are you that desperate? Baisu, are you all right? What's gotten into this man?" She was only bringing the workers some water. Did he have to think of her so degradingly? She protested, "What's wrong with me? They've been hauling stone up the mountain to fix the orphanage road, working from dawn to dusk in the heat. I bought them some water and brought it over. What's the problem? Is Lu headmaster really so hard-hearted that he expects everyone to be like you?" Under the brim of Lu Tingyan's hat, his sullen, narrow eyes stared at her intently. In the moonlight, her gaze was especially clear and open. Although she was very fat, her eyes were quite large. The soft, bright moonlight passed through her long eyelashes, casting a shadow and a halo of light at the bottom of her eyes, making them look deep and pure. Lu Tingyan was at a loss for words. He felt that a woman like Baisu, who would stop at nothing, could very easily do things like seduce people everywhere. But those eyes were just too open and pure, making him unable to help but begin to doubt his own judgment. Yet females are taught accordingly from a young age. She couldn't possibly be unaware that the scent emanating from a female has an aphrodisiac effect on males. Especially in summer, the unique scent on females is impossible to hide. Because of this, summer is the peak mating season for the males. Generally, females rarely go out in the summer. She, however, was different. Not only did she go out late at night, she exercised too, sweat dripping all over, like a walking aphrodisiac, and she had the nerve to loiter among the workers. Moreover, Lu Tingyan's brow was furrowed so tight it could almost crush a fly. He clearly despised this woman. The kindness he showed in saving her that night was because Favor's oblige needed her food to restore his vitality. But that damned peachy fragrance from her body uncontrollably dove into his nostrils, teasing him until he couldn't help feeling slightly restless and unsettled. Damn it, restless and unsettled? He hadn't felt anything for women in so many years. Even when facing the most seductive widow among the nobility, Julie, he could spend a whole night next to her without so much as a stir. Showing no physiological reaction at all, Baisu had no self-awareness whatsoever and even pushed him angrily. So what if I buy them some water to reward them? Unbeknownst to her, with that movement the thin fabric over her chest fluttered lightly, the sweat-soaked clothes clinging tightly to her body, simply. Lu Tingyan's ears flushed. He turned his face away coldly. I don't care what tricks you're playing, but it's not allowed within my jurisdiction. Having said that, he turned and headed down the mountain, his usually precise, rhythmic steps showing a barely perceptible disarray. Baisu rolled her eyes crazy. She didn't take it to heart, hummed a little tune, and turned back to the orphanage at the mountaintop. People feel like this after exercising. In high spirits, as if every worry has washed away with the sweat. She cooked a little late-night snack in the kitchen with Bai Xiaoling again, and only went upstairs after they finished eating. After the snack, the sticky feeling on her body was even more noticeable. She had discovered this a couple of days ago. It seemed that after exercising, her pores opened, and when she ate what she made herself, her body expelled more impurities. Baisu hurriedly grabbed her pajamas and went to take a shower. After coming out fresh and clean, she was once again a fair, translucent honey peach. She casually dried her hair and stepped onto the scale. In just a little over half a month here, she had already lost 20 jin. I lost 20 jin without dieting. Who understands this kind of joy? Baisu threw herself onto the soft bed, curled up in the quilt, and quickly fell into a deep sleep. On one side she slept soundly, on the other, someone was wide awake. Lu Tingyan tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Whenever he closed his eyes, his mind was full of the night scenes. Eyes wet like a stream flowing under the moon. Snow-white skin glistening with crystalline sweat. Cheeks tinged with a faint blush. A tongue that's slightly wet, appearing and disappearing when speaking. When she shoved him, the thin fabric in front of her rippled lightly like water. Damn it. Lu Tingyan abruptly sat up in bed and slapped himself across the face. Had he gone mad? He was behaving like he was in heat, his mind full of that woman. That woman had done such disgusting things to him back then. Lu Tingyan stifled his revulsion and forced himself to recall the events of those years, finally calming down. But though his mind had calmed, his body refused to settle. He attributed it to Baisu's deliberate seduction just now. It had to be that way. How could Baisu not know what a female's scent would do to a male? She was deliberately wobbling in front of him like that. A frost passed through Lu Tingyan's eyes as he stood and went into the bathroom. The sound of water splashing soon came from the bathroom. But he found out the next day. Baisu really didn't know what effect a female's scent would have. She's such an idiot. The next day, Baisu was carrying a sack of food up from the foot of the mountain. It should all be rice inside. For males, carrying 20 jin of rice up the mountain was as easy as turning one's hand. But for delicate females, that kind of heavy labor was clearly beyond what they could bear. Baisu was sweating profusely under the sun, trudging up the mountain with the rice on her shoulder. All along the way she left a strong scent of ripe peach. Passing by the construction crew, a few workers were momentarily stunned, and even had their feet injured by the machinery. Lu Tingyan scowled as he took the bag of rice off her shoulder, veins standing out on his forehead as he forced down his anger. Baisu, what on earth are you trying to do? Baisu looked bewildered. Are you the one who's sick? Is me carrying rice bothering you? Lu Tingyan pointed at the workers who, dazed from the scent of peach syrup, were wandering around in a trance and demanded in a low voice, "You're openly seducing them like this. What are you thinking?" Baisu bit back her anger, shoved him aside, and snatched her rice back. She scowled, pointing at the rice. "I just came down the mountain to buy rice. There's no food left up there. The delivery boss went out to make rounds. He won't be able to deliver until the afternoon. But those little cubs up on the mountain are all crying to be fed, and you glutton, need to be fed. That's why I went through all the trouble to lug a sack of rice up the mountain first, so would have something to make do with for lunch, understand?" Baisuyue grew angrier as she spoke, looking at Lu Tingyan as if he were an idiot. At least you're a man. You're a colonel, right? What's wrong with your brain? In broad daylight I'm full and bored with nothing to do. I could stay in the AC. But instead I go out in the sun until my face is flushed, to seduce them? Of course I'm not belittling the hard-working laborers. I just think you keep using the same excuse to smear people. It's ridiculous. I even wonder how you got that colonel rank? It wasn't bought with PY, was it? Lu Tingyan's face darkened. Sparks crackled between their gazes in the air. Lu Tingyan stared into her eyes, and an incredible thought suddenly rose in his mind. This woman, she really doesn't seem to think there's anything wrong with doing this. Logically, in order to climb up, she would definitely use any means necessary. Among the people present, the workers have no status, and he, this retired useless orc, isn't worth her attention. There's absolutely no need for her to go to such great lengths, repeatedly emitting scents to seduce them. Lu Tingyan squinted, staring at her. Are you crazy or did you really forget? A female's scent easily arouses males. You're all sweaty. Your peach scent has almost marinated this whole path up the mountain. Baisu was dumbfounded. Huh? Chapter 12. Inciting a disturbance. What kind of bizarre setup is this? She doesn't have much of an impression? It seems the novel didn't really mention it much. Because according to the plot, the heroine attracted and won over the 4 male leads using the foresight she gained after rebirth. There wasn't much mention of the female scent. Baisu glanced suspiciously at Lu Tingyan beside her. Seeing he didn't look like he was lying, she hurriedly cleared her throat. Of course I haven't forgotten. But I'm just worried about leaving the pups on the mountain hungry and you elderly people, aren't I? This time Lu Tingyan could be sure she really had forgotten. Baisu akartli avertet hergaze. I'll head back first. But Lu Tingyan beat her to it. Casually hoisting the bag of rice and walking ahead. It was his way of saying he was going to carry the rice up for her. Baisu slapped her forehead, following after them while cursing the system in her head. You didn't warn me either. The system felt deeply aggrieved. I thought this was your strategy to seduce the male lead. Baisu exasperated. Am I crazy to seduce him? You said he's the male lead. And the male lead is destined to end up with the female lead. I only wanted to use him to find out what really happened back then. System. Fine, but don't you really want to do some tasks? Although the system hasn't assigned you any mandatory tasks, doing tasks can earn points you can exchange in the shop for things you want. After Baisu transmigrated here, because the system never forced her to complete tasks and she already had the novel's plot in hand, she never bothered to study the system in detail. Curious. She opened the system shop and saw all kinds of categorized items inside. In the life section, all real-world physical goods could almost all be redeemed with points. When she opened the skills tab, it was full of abstract skills, attack-type skills, healing skills, survival skills, and a variety of clever techniques, and so on. There are even various elixirs that boost the level of spiritual power. With these elixirs, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for her to evolve into a level 9 female orc? The abilities corresponding to a male's spiritual power level and a female's spiritual power level are different. The higher a male's level, the more supernatural powers and combat skills he may awaken, and the stronger his strength. The higher a female's rank, the stronger her reproductive ability, and the rarer she is. It is extremely rare for females to awaken supernatural abilities. There might not even be one in 100 years. She asked curiously, how do you buy these? The system enthusiastically explained, it's simple. Just romance the male leads, make them fall for you, earn affection points, and you can exchange affection points for shop credits at a 1:1 rate to shop in the store. Of course, if you want to redeem skill-type pills or pills that increase spirit power levels, you need to use golden points, and golden points can only be obtained by bearing the male lead's children. Baisu raised an eyebrow. Alright then. She didn't have that need for the time being. What else did the system want to try to sell her? Baisu was already too tired to listen. She just wanted to start a brand new, beautiful life in this world. Raising those kids from the mountaintop to grow up well. And turning all those hateful future villains into obedient, upright darlings. The system said again, don't you want to take back everything that originally belonged to you? Your parents favor the female lead by Shui so much and ignore you. Baisu's voice grew considerably colder. Enough, I don't want to hear it. In her last life she had already endured enough suffering at the hands of her family. Being reborn and able to stay far away from them in this life was the greatest blessing she could ask for. She had no interest in vying for the original owner's favor, nor in seizing so-called parental affection or the honor and wealth of the Bai family. The children on the mountain were the only ones she needed to worry about right now. Rumors suddenly spread from below the mountain, saying that the female Baisu who had been exiled to the orphanage on the mountaintop was promiscuous, hooking up with people everywhere. You don't know, oh my, every night on the road from the foot of the mountain up to the top. That peachy scent is so strong I'm embarrassed to even mention it. No wonder a few of my males have been showing signs of heat these past couple of days, driving me crazy. Ha 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 ha, you have so many males at home. You'd better keep an eye on them so they don't get spoiled. That Baisu is really shameless. What is she doing every night? She must be going crazy wanting males, right? I bet she's just lonely and deliberately came to seduce people. Shameless. Tui. Bai Shaoling appeared from Waknoshire, his face dark as thunder. What nonsense are you spouting? The gossiping females were startled, and when they saw it was him they rolled their eyes again. Who did we think it was? Little one-eyed wolf. Are you trying to scare us to death? Such an ill-bred little male, sneaking around eavesdropping on people like that? Aya, the kids from the mountaintop orphanage are all like that, petty thieves, sneaky and furtive. What good people could they be? Go Gahat, terrible luck. Let's go. Bai Shaoling stared at their backs, a trace of gloom flashing in his eyes. The little tiger beside him looked to him for help. Brother Shaoling, what should we do? Bai Xiaoling's cold expression swept over those people. Teach them a lesson, make them shut their stinking mouths. The rumor about Baisu was heard by her as well, but she didn't take it to heart, and just switched her outdoor activities to indoors. Recently she used the system to cram the world background knowledge of the interstellar beast world. Whether for her own safety or some other reason, exercising indoors was clearly better. Aside from the construction crew outside making noise from morning till night, life was fairly peaceful. She just hadn't expected that while she refrained from provoking the female lead, the female lead would take the initiative to provoke her. Bai Su frowned at the uninvited guest at the door by Shui, her expression impatient. What do you want? It was just the two of them in the living room. Bai Shui stopped hiding and, arms folded, looked at Bai Su arrogantly. Sister, are you serious? Do you have to compete with me for everything? Bai Su. What am I competing for? Bai Shui. You were deliberately seducing Lu Tingyan, weren't you? You sure get around. No, I've had my eye on him lately, trying to make him my first beast husband. Bai Su's mouth twitched slightly. If you're so bored, go down to the village and help the villagers carry manure. Bai Shui. She covered her mouth in disgust and said contemptuously, staying in the exile lands too long has made you so coarse. People like you don't stand a chance against me. Bai Su, which eye did you see me competing with you with? Bai Shui sneered coldly. Not competing? You went to such lengths to study historical cooking techniques, and made those dishes with that to get Lu Tingyan's attention? I'll tell you if you don't stay away from Lu Tingyan a bit more. Don't blame me for being unkind to you. Bai Su laughed angrily. I'm rather curious, what kind of unkind do you mean? Bai Shui snorted coldly and turned to leave. Director Mama, was she giving you trouble? The voice of Little White Wolf suddenly came from behind. Bai Su was startled, and turned to see Little White Wolf standing quietly at the top of the stairs, her gaze wickedly chilling. She frowned. Not at all, don't overthink it. She's just all talk. Bai Su, fearing this little villain might take it the wrong way, quickly added, Alright, the adult world is complicated, not as simple as you think. If you're bored, take Xiao Hu and the others outside to bask in the sun by the gate, or go to the back hill and dig up some wild vegetables for me. Little Bai Wolf obediently nodded okay. Suddenly, a noisy commotion came from outside, as if a crowd had gathered, clamoring. Bai Su, you bitch, come out here. How are you taking care of your kids? Your kid stole things from our house. Where's that little blind brat? Make him crawl out here for me. Chapter 13. Fists strike in 4 directions, feet kick in 8. Bai Su frowned and stepped outside, seeing at the door someone storming over, sleeves rolled up and hands on her hips. She recognized the woman, the owner of the rice shop at the foot of the mountain. Everyone called her Xiaomi. Xiaomi had a full figure, strong fertility, looked quite good, and was even a third-tier cat beast persona, famed Mishisher in the village. A few beast husbands followed behind her, faces a bit awkward. Ah, forget it, forget it. We're all neighbors. It would be so embarrassing if this blew up. Xiaomi glared at them fiercely. If any of you keep speaking up for that bitch by Sue, you'll all be castrated and tossed out. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Each of you has gotten bold, running up to the mountaintop every day. Bai Su left the orphanage, her face remarkably calm. What's going on? Bai Xiaolang's expression was sullen. Afraid they would bully Bai Su, he stood beside her with threatening resolve. Xiaomi had one hand on her hip and pointed at Bai Xiaolang beside her. You still dare ask me what's wrong? The kids from your orphanage are ill-mannered and came to my shop to steal rice. Bai Su turned to look at Bai Xiaolang. Is that true? Bai Xiaolang's face was unusually ugly. No, I didn't steal. Xiaomi glared angrily with wide eyes. You still have the nerve to say you didn't steal? Wasn't it just that a couple of days ago you overheard us saying a few idle words about Bai Su? This morning when I got up I found 10 bags of rice missing from the storeroom, and the 7 or 8 left had their bags poked and were spilling all over the floor. You can go take a look now. The scratches on that bag are obviously man-made. There's no way a mouse chewed them. Who else could it be besides that ill-mannered little wolf pup? The people around started chirping along. I saw it this morning too, didn't I? Those bag scratches are neat. You can tell they were deliberately cut with a kitchen knife. Everything's usually fine. No family's child has ever done something like this. Exactly. How could this happen out of the blue? Xiaomi snorted coldly, glanced disdainfully at Bai Su beside her, and looked at everyone. Isn't it all because a few days ago down at the foot of the mountain I and some friends said a few idle words about Bai Su? That little wolf pup has held a grudge. Am not wrong either, hasn't Bai Su been seducing people these days? In the middle of summer, males are already prone to rutting. She's the worst. She's gone mad for men. That hoary scent, I smelled it from far away. You're making our males run up the mountain every day for no reason. If you want to steal someone, have the guts to steal them face-to-face. It'll tear your face apart. The commotion quickly caught the construction crew's attention. Bai Su wasn't to be trifled with either. She gave a cold look at Xiaomi. Don't start with those nonsense. You come up here and say children from our yard steal things. Do you have any proof? There are so many children at the foot of the mountain, and you just have to say it's my kid who stole it. What, jealous of me? Xiaomi stared in disbelief, pointing at her nose. Jealous of you? Look at what you are. An exiled female whose reputation stinks worse than the village gutter. Not even a male willing to be your beast husband jealous of you? Don't make me laugh. I'll tell you this. You owe me an explanation for what happened today, and you will pay. Have that little blind one next to you apologize to me, or I'll call the police. Bai Xiaolang's eyes darkened. I didn't steal anything. Bai Su stepped in front of Bai Xiaolang. He said he didn't steal anything. If you keep falsely accusing our child, do you believe he'll tear your mouth apart? Falsely accusing? Xiaomi scoffed. All the kids from our mountain village have fathers and mothers and good upbringing. Besides your orphanage, what other kids would do something so vile? You really never learn. You were found out and you're still as stubborn as a dead duck. She wasn't done speaking, directing the beast husband behind her. Are you all dead? Grab that little cub and bring him over. With a loss this big to the shop, are you going to pay for it? The beastmen cowered and nodded hastily, about to rush forward and grab the person. Bai Xiaolang instantly released spiritual power, revealing a fierce, demonic appearance. Sharp wolf claws appeared on his fingers, his canine teeth entering attack mode. Bai Su shielded the person behind her, scolding in a deep voice. Let's see who dares. The orphanage is now under federal jurisdiction. I'm not some exiled female. Do you dare lay a hand on me? Hearing this, the few beastmen showed hesitation on their faces, and didn't dare step forward. Bai Su looked at Xiaomi, her gaze not yielding an inch. I told you, either show the evidence or stop barking here. Move again and I'll call the police. Xiaomi was cowed by Bai Su's momentum, hesitating to step forward, panic showing on her face. She turned to the onlookers. Look at this. It's the thief crying stop thief. Clearly the orphanage kids stole rice from our house, wasted a lot, and still refused to admit it, saying they'll call the police? Who's supposed to be afraid of her? Not the orphanage kids. Then are you neighbors? We've all lived together so many years. Everyone knows exactly what kind of children each household has. There's no way our child could have done something like that. Don't you all agree? The moment she said that, she immediately brought the onlookers over to her side. Of course. My child would never do something so outrageous. My family's always strict. If my child dared steal, I'd have beaten them to death long ago. Our child absolutely couldn't be theirs. It must be an orphanage kid. Right. Orphanage kids grew up without parents' guidance. Everyone knows what kind of person Bai Su is. That hateful woman is shameless, gambling and drinking all the time. What kind of good child could she possibly raise? Xiaomi added fuel to the fire. That little wolf cub is blind and has no tail, always gloomy looking, clearly not a decent person. It's perfectly normal for him to steal, right? Maybe he even stole from people's homes before, only he stole so little you didn't notice. Bai Su went up and slapped her hard, grabbing her hair and dragging her across the ground. You bitch, say I can kill your baby. Ah. What are you doing? Xiaomi grit her teeth in pain. Bai Su straddled her and started slapping her left and right. My baby didn't steal anything. How dare you frame our child? I'll beat you to death, you hag. Shut your mouth. Stop your nagging. Bai Xiaolang stared blankly at Bai Su's back. Suddenly his nose prickled and his vision began to blur. The male partners of Xiaomi wanted to help, but they feared hurting Bai Su and being accused of harming a female, something that could be serious, even land them in prison. The females tried to pull Bai Su apart, grabbing at her with all hands. But the females at the foot of the mountain all had mediocre spirit power, at best 1 or 2 levels, about the same as Bai Su. And Bai Su was too fat, the weight was obvious. A crowd rushed her, and still couldn't budge her an inch. As a result, Xiaomi took several slaps. Lu Tingyan waited until the crowd looked about done, then dispersed them and grabbed Bai Su by the back of her collar, lifting her up. Xiaomi lay on the ground, her face swollen like a pig's head, half her soul seemingly blown out. She was clearly badly frightened. She glanced around at the people with hollow eyes, and finally couldn't hold back, letting out a wail and crying. Chapter 14. Intimate with the wolf pup. Bai Su wanted to strike again, but Lu Tingyan beside her clicked his tongue coldly and she behaved. She was a little unrepentant. They came to pick a fight. If they have the guts to pick a fight, they should be prepared to get beaten. Lu Tingyan gave her a cold glance. First you start hitting people, and now you act like you're in the right. Her hair was a mess from being grabbed, her face scratched up, looking like a little lunatic. Xiaomi looked at Lu Tingyan, and when she saw the insignia on his uniform, she immediately burst into tears. Colonel, you have to stand up for us. It was clearly his family's kid who stole rice from our home, but he won't admit it and even hit people. Lu Tingyan said coldly, we will investigate what exactly happened. He signaled to the police officer beside him to have the troublemaking Xiaomi and Bai Su detained. Little White Wolf panicked. Hey! Why are you arresting people at random? I didn't steal anything, they framed us. People in the crowd whispered among themselves. This Bai Su really has skill. She seduced a man and even taught the child to steal. How did the Federation suddenly bring the orphanage into the inner realm? Won't this woman be even more rampant now? Hidden in the crowd, Bai Shui watched this farce unfold, and a new plan gradually began to form in her mind. Lu Tingyan would never take the initiative to deal with such matters. She really underestimated that bitch Bai Su. She must drive that woman out of the Federation's territory. Exiled is exiled, want to come back. Dream on. Lu Tingyan's people were very efficient. The federal police soon arrived with search equipment. They first searched the orphanage on the hilltop, and did not find the rice that Xiaomi had said was stolen. The officers then conducted a swift and thorough search of the scene, found clues in the pile of rice, and ultimately discovered that the rice thief was none other than Xiaomi's own child. When the result came out, everyone had gathered in the village at the foot of the hill. Xiaomi looked at the result in shock. How is that possible? Why would our child steal rice? This is our own rice. And besides, they had no reason to slash those bags, did they? Are they stupid? Bai Su rolled her eyes. I don't care why your child stole the rice. Now that the truth is clear, you came to cause trouble and framed my child. Apologize immediately, right now. A trace of guilt flashed across Xiaomi's face. Apologize for what? If they didn't steal, they didn't steal. I'm not wrong to say it. Just because they didn't steal today doesn't mean they didn't steal before. And you hit me first. I haven't settled the score with you yet. Bai Su looked at Lu Tingyan. Commander Lu, how do you rule on this? They came to our door to pick a fight and damaged my and Bai Xiaolang's reputations. Our mental harm is severe. Isn't my hitting her justified self-defense? Xiaomi also looked at Lu Tingyan. Lu Tingyan looked at the two of them expressionlessly. Xiaomi was the one who brought people to pick a fight first. All consequences fall on the party at fault. Bai Su raised her hand like an elementary school student. They also have to apologize to my child and compensate me for reputational damage and emotional distress. Xiaomi spat at the mention of compensation. Pa, why should I pay you for reputational damage? A loose woman like you, what reputation do you even have? If you hadn't been seducing our beasts, who would bother with you? The other females hearing this looked indignant as well. Exactly. This female is immoral, seducing our beasts. Strongly urged to drive her out of the Federation. Yes. Uphold the original sentence of exile. Bai Su scanned the crowd at those shouting. Why hadn't she seen those females in the village? The women who had shouted met her gaze and, frightened, hurriedly hid back in the crowd. But right now Bai Su had no time to deal with them. She only looked at Xiaomi. Anyone can make baseless accusations. Words and actions require evidence. On what grounds are you saying I seduced someone? It's true that she had forgotten that a female's scent can stimulate rutting. But the section where she ran didn't involve the village at all. It was just from the mountaintop down to the foot, and then back. It was only that one day when she went to buy water. She entered the village briefly to reward the workers. Xiaomi snapped. How is it not seduction? Our beast husband is always absent-minded, and as soon as it's mealtime he runs up the mountain. Isn't that because you seduced him? Right. Our beast husband too. And mine as well. Recently he even skips meals and runs up the mountain at mealtime. If that's not being seduced, then what is? Every time he comes down he looks dazed. You claim it's innocent. Who would believe that? So it was because of this? Bai Su was instantly so speechless she felt like rolling her eyes. Lu Tingyan probably had a rough idea of what was going on as well. He glanced at the adjutant beside him, Yodel. Yodel had no choice but to step forward and explain helplessly to everyone. You all have misunderstood. Your beast husband went up the mountain probably because he was attracted by the food Miss Bai Su made. Not because of the affair you think. Everyone clearly didn't believe it. What meal? A meal that can make people lose their appetite? Exactly. Do we look like we've never eaten before? We have nutrition packs and canned food at home that fill you up. We haven't seen him take a single extra bite. And now you're covering for her. Bai Su rolled her eyes. Believe it if you want. Just because you lack ability doesn't mean everyone else does too. That said, these females didn't treat their beast husbands any better, or pay them any more attention in daily life. But that's human nature. Something utterly ordinary suddenly becomes alluring the moment someone else wants it. The crowd still wouldn't let it go. Lu Tingyan frowned. The matter has been clarified and ends here. Xiaomi gathered people to make trouble and damage Bai Su and Bai Xiaolang's reputations. She is ordered to compensate them 3,000 yuan for emotional distress. Any further objections will be treated as the same crime as ruled above. The decision was nailed down. Bai Su rolled her eyes at Xiaomi and took Bai Xiaolang home. All the way, Bai Xiaolang kept his head down in silence, clearly in a bad mood. Bai Su patted his shoulder. There, this wasn't your fault to begin with. We didn't come out empty-handed, so don't be so downhearted. Bai Xiaolang looked up at her. Don't fight for me anymore. Bai Su raised an eyebrow. Why? Do you think I'm embarrassing? Bai Xiaolang grew anxious. Of course not. I just. He was very awkward by nature. Although he was worried Bai Su would suffer and get hurt, he simply couldn't bring himself to say it. Had been holding it in for a while and couldn't help but get irritated. Anyway, don't fight for me anymore in the future. Bai Su suddenly snorted with laughter and pulled him into her arms. All right, I know you care about me. If you care, then show it properly. A mouth isn't just for eating, it's also for speaking and expressing emotions. If you keep everything bottled up and say nothing, how would anyone know what you're thinking? Bai Xiaoling had never been held so tightly in such a soft, warm embrace. This feeling was so novel and special to him. His face grew redder and redder. He froze, afraid to move. Part of him wanted Bai Su to hold him a little longer, while another part found it embarrassing and wrestled with whether to push him away. Bai Su rubbed his head. Come on. Say after me, because I care about you. I'm afraid you'll get hurt for my sake. Bai Xiaoling's inner thoughts were exposed. His little face flushed bright red. He said stiffly no. Bai Su shook him in her arms. Say it, such a simple sentence. No. Then say it another way. Just say Director Mama. I'm afraid you'll get hurt and it will hurt. EW, that's so cheesy. No. The little wolf cub was mortified, broke free from her arms, and ran up the mountain with quick little steps. Bai Su laughed loudly from behind, chasing after him while unabashedly exposing his little scheme. Dean Mommy, you defended me today, I'm so happy. Ah, stop saying that. Dean Mommy, I love you so much. When I grow up I'll definitely protect you. Bai Su, shut up. Lu Tingyan was under the tree at the corner, originally intending to secretly escort the two of them away. But he didn't expect to hear such a warm conversation. He didn't even notice when the corners of his mouth had curved into a smile. It seemed Bai Su had changed a lot. Chapter 15. Involved in a cub trafficking case. Midnight. Bai Xiaoling suddenly opened his eyes and sat up from the bed. He glanced at the other little cubs still sleeping and tiptoed out. The thin, frail figure headed down the mountain. The next day, it was only 5 or 6 in the morning, but the foot of the mountain was already bustling. Good heavens! Who dumped shit in my yard? My chickens. Who let my chickens out? Who cut my power line? No wonder it was so hot in the middle of the night, and the air conditioning stopped. Where did the clothes I was drying in the yard go? Early in the morning there was pandemonium, lively and noisy. The shouts were from those who had been gossiping and cursing Bai Su as promiscuous and a seductress during yesterday's commotion. At that moment, Bai Su was in the kitchen yawning as she washed rice. Summers feel short. The 4 little ones, hearing her get up, knew something tasty was coming and sat eagerly in a row at the table waiting to be fed. While rinsing rice, Bai Su stretched her neck curiously to look outside. Why is it so lively down the mountain? Is there a market day today? Bai Xiaoling replied without changing his expression. I don't know. Little Tiger asked curiously, why did Pippi steal the rice from home? Pippi is Xiaomi's son. The kitten whispered nearby, it seems it's because his mother owed gambling debts. White Little Wolf frowned. I've heard about this too, it's very strange. The owner of that rice shop's wife said she'd never sold a child, but Wang Biao's men clearly came with signed and sealed papers demanding the child. Xiao Hu shook his head. I don't understand. Bai Su cheerfully rinsed rice and cooked. Only after the rice porridge was on the stove did she have a moment to lift Bai Xiaoling's eyelid a little. Let me see. How's the left eye? Can you see now? Bai Xiaoling obediently tilted his head back. It seems I can see now. There had originally been scars over his eyes, crusting them shut so he couldn't even open them. But after these days of Bai Su's persistent feeding, his eyes slowly improved and grew new flesh. The skin around his eyes had completely healed. They were incredibly beautiful eyes, with smooth, delicate contours one could vaguely tell he'd grow into a handsome man. Only the eyeballs were still developing, so his vision was always blurry. They hadn't fully healed yet. Bai Su nodded with satisfaction. What about the tail? Bai Xiaoling turned around and stuck up his tail to show her. The amputated part had fully healed, though the fur there hadn't completely grown back yet. The upper half was thick and soft with snowy white wolf fur. The lower half was sparse and still growing in. Bai Xiaoling, it's almost done. The spiritual link has already been restored. He is a level 5 snow wolf, and recently he has been inexplicably feeling a restless urge he can't quite describe, with the power in his tail not knowing where to vent. Bai Su nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Bai Xiaoling's wounds were very similar to Lu Tingyan's. But Lu Tingyan is an adult after all. His growth rate might not be as fast as Bai Xiaoling's, though it was probably much better. Bai Su wondered when she should ask. She couldn't let someone keep freeloading at her place forever. The moment he opened his mouth, he became stern again. The mention of the past made his face go cold, and he turned to leave. As if she owed him 8 million. A sudden commotion broke out outside. Baisus mouse twitch slightly. So early in the morning, these people really have nothing better to do. She walked out and saw villagers crowding around several police officers, striding over menacingly with a look of smugness on their faces. Almost all the females from the foot of the mountain had come. Baisu recalled the anomaly she saw yesterday. It seemed like someone among the females was maliciously stirring up emotions. She found it odd in the past she hadn't had so many interactions with the females down the mountain. Had she? Why did they all look at her as if she were their father's murderer? She quickly recalled Bai Shui, who had come to the door a few days ago to provoke her. She could be sure almost without any hesitation that it was definitely Bai Shui behind this. That person was like an idiot, latching onto her and biting. It wouldn't be surprising for her to do things like this to frame her. Investigators, villagers, and guards swarmed into the orphanage courtyard, and guards filled the outside as well, as if afraid she might try to run. The lead investigator produced his identification. Hello, I'm the investigator for this area. We received an anonymous tip alleging that your mountaintop orphanage is involved in child trafficking, so there are some questions we need to verify with you in person. At those words, Baisu felt her heart skip a beat, and thought this wasn't good. She had never sold children herself, but the original owner had. She also sold 3 more, each destined to become a major villain. That day at the harbor, she casually asked the sailors about retrieving the children, but the crew said it would be difficult to get them back. Because black market trafficking is a gray trade, it's basically never registered or recorded. Where they end up is pure luck. The little cubs behind Baisu tensed up as well, terrified she might be taken away. The investigator stared at her, his gaze carrying a measure of pressure. Miss Baisu, please answer my question. Have you ever been involved in buying or selling young beast people? This is very important for your entry application. If you have such a history, then I think your exile period will be extended. Exiled female beast people are not allowed to marry males within the territory during their exile, nor are they permitted to engage in any commercial or daily activities within the territory. They are even more forbidden from using an online ID to access the internet within the territory. Just a few days ago she had secured her entry application by saving the orphanage's young beast people. She absolutely could not let that be ruined. But the past could not be changed. And denying it outright would only arouse suspicion. She looked at the investigator. I haven't been involved in child trafficking, but children from my orphanage have been kidnapped. Kidnapped? The mediator looked at her with obvious distrust. The females beside her immediately started chattering, contradicting her. What kidnapping? She sold them herself. Right, when she had gambling debts and no money, she would sell the children. She says there aren't any, so there aren't? What about those poor children? What will happen to them? Where will they go? White Sue, you really deserve to die. Someone like you as the orphanage director? You should have been shot long ago. Bah. Child trafficker. Shameless creature. Faced with so many accusations, Baisu instead calmed down. I told you, our orphanage did have children who were trafficked, but I never took part in any trafficking. The mediator produced the evidence in his hand. Wang Biao confessed in prison that you once engaged with him in the trafficking of children. This is the proof of your transaction. Your signature is on it, and those are your fingerprints, right? At that moment, Bai Shui and Lu Tingyan appeared. Bai Shui pushed through the crowd, feigning bewilderment. What's going on here? The mediator respectfully performed a hatless bow. Miss Bai, we received an anonymous tip, and are investigating a case of orc cub trafficking. What? Trafficking infants? Bai Shui cried out in exaggerated shock. Who would do such a cruel, heinous thing? People like that appearing within the Federation? They should be shot. She turned to look at Lu Tingyan beside her. Don't you agree, Colonel Lu? I love children more than anything. I can never stand to see them suffer. Who could be so heartless as to traffic in little kids? Lu Tingyan frowned slightly. His gaze sharp as it fell on the documents in the investigator's hand. At that moment Baisu was absolutely certain. The mastermind behind the past 2 days' farce was Bai Shui. Trading in beast human cubs is no small crime. If she couldn't clear her name today, all the goodwill shed built up with Lu Tingyan over these past days would be for nothing, and shed never again hoped to shake off the stigma of exile. Chapter 16. Dragging Lu Tingyan away. Although Lu Tingyan was officially considered a wreck by the empire, he was still a member of the Lu family and bore a military rank. The investigator hurriedly and respectfully handed him the documents in his hand. Lu Tingyan took the papers and glanced at them, his gaze drifting lightly to Bai Su. The evidence was conclusive, but his intuition told him this matter was not what it appeared to be on the surface. Bai Su glanced at the documents in his hand, not rushing to refute them, but stared at the investigator and asked, "May I ask where this document came from?" Investigator. Of course it was Wang Biao who handed it over. Bai Su. How can you be sure that what he produced is necessarily genuine? Bai Shui pretended to lean in and glanced at it, then cried out, "Your name and fingerprints are on it, though could it be fake?" She widened her eyes, as if she'd just realized. "So Bai Su, you really were involved in trafficking cubs? I never thought you were that kind of person. You've disappointed me so much. You've completely brought shame on the Bai family. No wonder Mom and Dad kicked you out of the Bai family back then. Being related by blood to someone like you is simply my disgrace and stain. My favorite is the little Beastman, and you actually hurt them? I absolutely won't allow people like you to exist in the Federation. If people like you can be pardoned and become federal citizens again, then I will stubbornly refuse to file an appeal until you are completely deported." Bai Su looked at her calmly. "Who are you putting on an act for? Did I let you down? If you really considered me family, the first thing you should have done was ask me whether this was true. Not so hastily and frantically convict me. If you really like beast children, your first reaction upon learning this would be to ask about the cub situation, not to stand here pontificating about what a kind and doting female you are." Bai Su snorted, laughing scornfully as she looked at her. "Do you know what you look like right now? You're exactly like a girl who finally got a chance to show off and in a fluster, steps on me to make herself look noble and kinda hypocritical green tea bitch. You." Bai Shui was enraged. Her chest heaved violently. She stammered and couldn't get a single sentence out for a long time, the depths of her eyes full of the guilt of being exposed. Lu Tingyan's expression was cold as he stared at the document, lost in thought, fearing he wouldn't believe her. Bai Shui hurriedly squeezed out a few pitiful tears. "Major Lu, you know me in the capital. I'm always taking part in various charity activities, volunteering to teach, providing psychological counseling to some deaf, mute, and disabled little beast people. Without changing expression, he took 2 steps back. "Sorry, we're not close. I didn't know." Bai Shui's face stiffened at his words. "You." Being humiliated in front of so many people, she was almost furious enough to lose her temper. But then, as if remembering something, she took a deep breath and looked at Lu Tingyan. "All right, now is not the time to focus on me. We should think about how to deal with the ringleader suspected of trafficking little beast people, shouldn't we?" Bai Su. "Illiterates should read more. It's still under investigation, and the matter isn't closed yet. The ringleader you mentioned isn't a term to be used like that." Bai Shui wanted to retort. Bai Su spoke up first. "Could you shut up? Do you want the whole world to know that your Bai family is a cultural wasteland?" Bai Shui gritted her teeth in rage. She realized this bitch truly had changed a lot. She used to be introverted and self-conscious, couldn't even fart no matter how many kicks she took, and now she's loquacious, opening her mouth and instantly annoying people. She even dares to compete with her? Compete with her at what? She was a level 5 lion rabbit, about to be promoted to level 6. And that idiot Bai Su was just a level 2 loser tangled up in lawsuits. Thinking of that, Bai Shui felt a bit consoled. It was just a turtle that would never turn over. What harm was there in her trying to get a little advantage with her words? Bai Su looked at Lu Tingyan. "This document must be forged. I have never signed such a document, and I have never trafficked children. I can swear to the beast god." The beast god was the faith of the interstellar beast people. Bai Shui rolled her eyes. "Someone as morally bankrupt as you, how dare you swear to the beast god?" Investigator. "You say you didn't sign this document, so I'll ask you. Have you ever gambled at Wang Biao's underground casino? Bai Su pursed her lips and nodded yes. The investigator asked again, so did you ask him to lend you money? Bai Su yes. She could feel Lu Tingyan's gaze like a blade falling on her face. It's time to act. Only Lu Tingyan believes in her. Only then can she get through this crisis. Bai Su's face showed a few traces of pain. At the time I was depressed, drowning in the pain of the past. I don't understand why, when we're both daughters of the Bai family, Mom and Dad always favor Bai Shui more. I don't understand why my life turned out like this. I even once thought I would spend the rest of my life outside the exiled Federation, staying at this orphanage. So at that time, to numb myself, I started drinking and gambling. But I swear, I really never signed that document. The children at the orphanage were my only companions. All of you have family and friends around you. Have you ever tasted what it's like to be completely alone? Have you tried waking up every day to an empty room? Do you know the kind of pain it feels like to be forgotten by the whole world? In those hard days, these children were the only ones who remembered me, knew me, and could stay with me. I love them so much it's not even enough time. How could I possibly have sold them? Bai Shui couldn't bear it and, fearing that the woman might turn things around with her silver tongue, hurriedly said, maybe you were drunk and signed without even knowing? Wang Biao also said you signed it yourself. The authenticated evidence is all there. Do you still want to argue? Bai Su stared at her. How do you know the fingerprints and handwriting were left by me? With interstellar tech so advanced now, it's normal to hire someone on the black market to forge them. In a flash of inspiration, she suddenly slapped her forehead. I know. Bai Su excitedly grabbed Lu Tingyan's clothes. I know what's going on. Come with me. She yanked Lu Tingyan and started running out, her brute force sending the nearby Bai Shui flying. The officers the investigator brought looked at each other helplessly. They wanted to stop her, but the person she was holding by the hand was Lu Shangxiao. They were just the police assigned to this remote area, who had the authority to stop anyone. Lu Tingyan's brows knit tightly as he stared fixedly at the hand she was pulling him by. She had lost a lot of weight. Her skin was fair and tender, the flesh in her palms soft and plump, wrapping his wrist delicate and smooth. He even wanted to pry open her palm to see if it was as chubby as a cat's paw pad. She gripped his wrist with so much force that he could clearly feel the tender flesh of her palm pressing against his wrist, like touching a small water balloon filled with warm water, soft and warm. This female was unusually fierce and wild, all teeth and claws. Her fingers had gone white from gripping so hard, the fingertips showing a delicate flushed pink, especially clear and translucent. He had to admit, this female had the most tempting skin he had ever seen. Her creamy skin showed a healthy blush of pink, delicate and fine. Without much effort one could easily make out the faint blue-purple veins beneath the surface. This kind of skin, on a battlefield, he could slice it open with one stroke easier than cutting tofu. Bai Su suddenly turned her head and stared at him. Lu Tingyan's eyelids twitched slightly, his lashes drooping a bit. What are you doing? Bai Su rubbed the back of her neck and turned her head back. Oh, nothing. I just suddenly felt a chill down my spine. Lu Tingyan unconsciously curled his lips. Where are you taking me? Bai Su, to crack a big case. Chapter 17. You can't beat me again. Lu Tingyan didn't expect that she would bring him to the entrance of the rice shop at the foot of the mountain. Xiaomi was dozing off while minding the shop. Seeing Bai Su bringing people in, her face turned ugly and she immediately tried to drive them out. Bai Su hurriedly called out to stop her. Don't get emotional. I'm here today to help you solve a big problem. If you drive me out you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Xiaomi grabbed her broom and swung. Get out of here, you! How dare you come onto my turf? 2 minutes later, Xiaomi, face bruised and swollen, sat obediently in the corner crying. Bai Su, you are sick running onto someone else's territory. Bai Su's mouth twitched as she tossed the broom aside. I told you not to lay a hand on her. You still couldn't beat me. Xiaomi began wailing loudly. Bai Su, all right, stop crying. I know you're worried about the child right now. Don't worry, didn't I just bring Lu Shangxiao to help you? Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow at that. What exactly happened? Bai Su asked Xiaomi. Did Wang Biao's men come to your house with a contract for selling a child, claiming you signed it, and trying to take your child away? or demanding money from you. Your child must have overheard that and thought you were going to sell him, so he deliberately ruined the rice to get back at you, right? Xiaomi, seeing that everything was being exposed by her, cried even louder. Well, his mother am not you. I wouldn't do something like sell my children. That document I clearly didn't sign, but they insist I did, forcing me to either pay money or hand people over. I have no money, and I can't bear to give up these few children of mine. This is practically killing me. Lu Tingyan quickly caught the crux of the matter. Then why didn't you call the police? Bai Su's mouth twitched slightly. She glanced at him. You clearly haven't spent time in small towns, have you? What's the use of calling the police? This area isn't within Federation jurisdiction. It's a gray zone where no one enforces the rules. Even if you call the police and they show up, those roaming beast people will just stay inside. They can't be caught. If they can't be caught, the problem won't be solved, unless the police stay at her house every day and act as security to protect them. Lu Tingyan frowned slightly, a flash of severity crossing his eyes. Bai Su, so you see, we're all just victims here. Those forged documents were created so they could brazenly take their children and sell them. The children from my Mount Top orphanage were taken the same way. In truth, the original owner had lost money gambling and in a fit of madness sold people. But the original owner getting into trouble. She wasn't taking the blame. Last time she asked the crew at the port because she wanted to know where the sold children were taken. The crew made it very clear. In the trafficking trade, these people are extremely wary. In order not to leave any leverage, they don't leave any evidence throughout the process, and they don't sign any documents. Everything is passed on orally. The sold children don't even have numbers or names, like cabbages, chickens, ducks, and fish sold at the market. That's why Bai Su was so certain she had never signed such a thing. Wang Biao would never let her sign something that could be used as evidence, because if anyone got hold of it, everyone would die. But Bai Su only learned today that Wang Biao and his crew would forge such documents to snatch children. Whether those documents were real or fake was entirely up to them to decide. If they weren't caught, they could use those papers to blackmail the less educated beast folk in the villages below. If they're caught, they'll surely find a way to prove those things are fake, that they made them up for fun, so they can get away. Lu Tingyan was a smart man. He soon understood the key point. So all these things were forged by Wang Biao's gang. Bai Su nodded. To completely root out this problem, we have to quietly find that gang's base and destroy it in one strike. Xiaomi shook her head, crying, it's useless. That gang is extremely alert. The moment there's any sign of trouble, they immediately know. As if remembering something, the light in her eyes gradually dimmed. The Federation's search teams have received tips before and have come countless times, but they came up empty countless times, and eventually they stopped coming. Bai Su laughed and patted the tall man beside her, Lu Tingyan. He's not one of those petty little investigators. Look at the insignia on his military cap. That's a colonel. Do you know what rank a colonel is? Xiaomi stared at the two of them in bewilderment. Bai Su turned to look at Lu Tingyan. Colonel Lu, my innocence, the safety of these villagers, and the security of the little beast people are all entrusted to you. A flicker passed through Lu Tingyan's eyes. Ever since his psychic power had been crippled, it had been a long time since had felt needed like this. Bai Su flattered him. You are colonel after all. With a flick of your fingers, countless people will follow your orders. Crushing a gang of local ruffians is child's play for you. Isn't it? For you, what's just a flick of a finger is a huge favor to us. From now on, however, they'll supply at any time. She thought a moment, then stingily added, but you have to reimburse the cost of the food. Lu Tingyan hooked a smile and looked at Xiaomi beside him. Don't worry, I'll take care of this matter. Xiaomi stared in disbelief, eyes wide. Did I hear that right? You're really going to take charge? On the mountain road, Bai Shui was leading the investigators and the onlookers in a grand pursuit. Bai Su frowned slightly. Those local ruffians are very shrewd. This matter shouldn't be blown up. Lu Tingyan nodded. Bai Shui came rushing over with people to make an arrest. Lu Tingyan stepped forward, called over the adjutant and assistant, and took the case from the investigator. The investigator stared blankly at Bai Shui. Bai Shui frowned at him. Lieutenant Colonel Lu Yu. Lu Tingyan, this matter ends here. That's it. Bai Shui was stunned, eyes wide. How can it be just like that? This is a serious matter, Lu Tingyan, do you know what you are? Ms. Bai. Lu Tingyan impatiently cut her off. You have no right to question any of my decisions. Yoder Lu Tingyan's adjutant and his assistant glanced at each other, and both couldn't help but shrink back. The colonel hated having his orders questioned more than anything. When their colonel still had his mental powers, anyone who dared openly defy or question his orders would receive corporal punishment for lesser offenses, and for more serious ones might even be executed by firing squad. Never question the decisions of the pack leader, unless you're tired of living. Bai Shui was still very angry. She had finally caught Bai Su in a compromising position, and was about to have her sentenced to lifelong exile, never to return to the Federation. How could she possibly miss such a golden opportunity? Bai Shui stood in front to prevent Lu Tingyan from taking Bai Su away. Colonel Lu, this is a matter of great importance. I think you should not make this decision yourself. Yudel and the assistant exchanged a glance. The kidnapping of juvenile beasts abroad might be a big deal locally, but their colonel after all was a colonel, the former federal leader who had stepped down. How big could a local matter possibly be? Could their colonel not make his own decisions? To put it bluntly, outside the Federation, if a colonel drew his gun and shot a few people, no one could say anything. Chapter 18. Using the cubs as bait to cleverly trap the villain. While Lu Tingyan hadn't yet exploded in anger, Yoder and the assistant, showing good judgment, quickly pulled Bai Shui aside. Lu Tingyan's sharp gaze swept over the people present. They were all villagers. The investigator had never seen such a high-ranking official. For a moment, everyone uncontrollably bowed their heads, too afraid to speak. Bai Su's mouth twitched slightly as she followed Lu Tingyan away. She knew what Lu Tingyan intended to do. If he wanted to eliminate them all at once, he certainly couldn't alert the snakes. That's why he deliberately acted as if he were protecting his little lover. So the matter would be dropped. The local bullies hiding in the shadows relaxed. Bai Su scowled, enduring Bai Shui's furious glare from behind her, feeling overwhelmed. Sure enough, Bai Su successfully returned to the orphanage, and that same day rumors at the foot of the mountain spread. Basically everyone said she had risen to prominence and hooked up with a rich man. Not only was she about to enter the Federation as a legal resident, but all her past deeds had been wiped clean. The rumors were told as if they were divine truths, stopping just short of calling her a wicked concubine, who brings disaster to the nation. That night, Bai Su sneaked out of the orphanage and met Lu Tingyan at the foot of the mountain. Taking advantage of the darkness when no one was around, the two of them went to Xiaomi's place. Xiaomi was sitting in the granary holding a little beast person and crying. It was clear she hadn't been crying for the first day. Seeing Bai Su and Lu Tingyan approach, she hurriedly wiped the tears from her face and nudged her child. Quick, kowtow a few times to your godmother and Colonel Lu and say thank you. The child was quick and knocked his head to the ground 3 times. Bai Su hurriedly pulled him up, the corner of her mouth twitching. Don't worry, it'll definitely save your child. Xiaomi stared at her with red-rimmed eyes. If you really can save my child, from today on you'll be my big sister. I won't go against you anymore. Those stupid males take them all if you want. They're not worth anything anyway. Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow beside him. Bai Su laughed and waved her hand. Then I don't want it. Lu Tingyan asked bluntly, where is the human exchange taking place? Xiaomi was so frightened she straightened her back, replying to the officer, it's at the cave entrance on the back mountain. They're to bring the people there tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Lu Tingyan nodded, I understand. Bai Su, we can follow them secretly. Then when they make the handoff, have people surround them and take them down. Lu Tingyan thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, we must catch them all at once. We can't arrest anyone at the exchange point. That would alert others. Bai Su looked at him, you mean? Lu Tingyan, have them take the children away, bring them to the den, and then wipe them out in one sweep. Xiaomi immediately shook her head, no sir. This won't do. What if we don't make it in time and my child is taken away and sold? She was terrified, clutching her child, tears welling up in her eyes. Bai Su frowned and reassured her. We'll use him as bait, but we will definitely put a tracker on him. We won't let anything happen to him. Xiaomi shook her head emphatically. No, no, no. We agreed it was to save my child. How can we send him to his death? If you two fight, he's just a child who will protect him. What if he gets hurt? Bai Su looked at Lu Tingyan helplessly and shrugged. Lu Tingyan frowned tightly. If you want to solve it once and for all, this is the best solution. Xiaomi only shook her head, refusing to listen to anyone, clutching the child and shaking her head, tears streaming down. Let me go. I can be the bait. A childish voice suddenly sounded at the door. Those present looked over at the sound and found it was Bai Xiaoling. Bai Su was taken aback for a moment. Why are you here? Bai Xiaoling. I followed you down the whole time. I heard everything just now. You're going to catch the bad guys. I can help. Lu Tingyan looked him over. You? Bai Xiaoling felt his manly pride was being challenged. His little face fell. I know being bait is dangerous, and if a fight breaks out you might not be able to look out for me, but I'm not afraid. I'm a level 5 Beastman. I have enough ability to protect myself. Level 5? Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow. How old are you? You're already level 5? Bai Xiaoling was very pleased with his reaction. I'm 4 years old. A 4-year-old in the wolf clan is roughly equivalent to a 10-year-old human child. Tall enough and fully mentally developed. Lu Tingyan calmly withdrew his gaze. When I was your age, I could already independently command small-scale offensive and defensive battles. Bai Xiaoling. Bai Su clicked her tongue and glared at Lu Tingyan. Why did you attack my son? Lu Tingyan. He's your son? Bai Su. All the kids in the orphanage are my children. Lu Tingyan coolly and objectively pointed out the fact. His level might be considered outstanding in a small place, but in the context of the entire Federation, that's not something to be proud of. Bai Xiaoling pressed his lips tightly, his body tensing. He hated this adult so much. His instinct told him that one day this adult would take away his hospital director mother. Now it seemed his instinct was right. This person really was detestable. Bai Su darkened his face. Are you proud just because you can command a minor offense and defense? What is there to be proud of about uneven distribution of educational resources causing disparities in ability? If you had been raised in an orphanage, living outside the Federation's jurisdiction since childhood, I don't think you'd necessarily do any better than him. Lu Tingyan was being so bluntly talked back to him like this in person for the first time. It was also the first time someone had denied his excellence like that. Although his spiritual power had been destroyed now, no one could deny his past glory. However, Lu Tingyan thought carefully about what she said. A flicker of something unusual passing through his eyes. I admit, what you said isn't without reason. Only then did Bai Su withdraw her gaze and rub the little white wolf's head beside her. Our little wolf is so brave. The little white wolf's ears flushed red. Good boy. Bai Su couldn't help but rub his ears again. Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow beside him. This kid brings him meals every day and is very wary. Whenever he tries to probe about Bai Su's food having miraculous healing powers, the boy gives him a warning glare and acts extremely fierce. The last time he and Bai Shui were led here, it was obviously the doing of this little fellow. He was never wrong about people. This little wolf cub is very calculating, with a sullen, dominant gaze and the ferocity unique to a lone wolf. Only Bai Su would believe that the wolf cub she raised was obedient and adorable. Lu Tingyan. Then it's settled. Use Little by the wolf as bait. I'll have my assistant take people to ambush the spot in advance. Bai Su looked at Little by the wolf. Are you sure? Do you really dare to be the bait? Little by the wolf nodded earnestly. Yes. Bai Su looked at him approvingly. Good. Truly the Dean Mother's good baby. She was very pleased to see the little one take the initiative to participate in these affairs of punishing the wicked and helping the innocent. Doing good deeds is addictive. When someone works hard to do good and receives others' gratitude, they gain a powerful sense of fulfillment mentally. The more he got involved, the more positive and sunny his mindset became, and the further he drifted from the villainous big boss. That also meant an extra measure of safety for her little life. Chapter 19. Bai Shui's well-intended trouble. On the other side, Bai Shui trembled with anger and turned to go home to fetch reinforcements. She absolutely could not let that bitch Bai Su snatch Lu Tingyan away. Federal capital, the Bai residence. Bai Shui burst into the living room crying, "Mom! You have to help me. That bitch Bai Su bullied me." Lady Bai was sipping her tea and nearly choked at the words. "Who are you talking about?" Bai Shui threw herself into her arms and complained with grievance. "It's that Bai Su." Madame Bai put down her teacup, frowning slightly. "Wasn't she exiled? You went to find her?" Bai Shui pouted. "I went with Lu Tingyan." Madame Bai looked at her disapprovingly. "You're something else. There are so many excellent males in the Federation, and you ignore them. A few days ago the Lu family's young master, Lu Yanhua, came looking for you again. Why didn't you respond? His father is the current leader." Bai Shui rolled her eyes disdainfully. "I don't want to be involved with him." Madame Bai frowned. "Ever since you got sick last time, you've been completely different when you woke up. I even suspect your brain got fried." Bai Shui quickly acted cute and snuggled into her arms. "Oh no, I didn't." She had simply leveled up after that fever, becoming a grade 5 beast person, and luckily awakened the skill of precognition. But her precognitive ability was quite limited. She couldn't control what she foresaw or when the visions would occur. When she woke that time, the premonition only showed that Lu Tingyan had regained his mental power, retaken the position of leader of the Federation, and awakened a new combat ability unstoppable, unmatched in glory. Thinking back to the dream where Lu Tingyan looked down on everyone from on high with his cold, handsome face, Bai Shui couldn't help but feel a stirring of desire. That's why she took advantage of Lu Tingyan's temporary decline to curry favor with him. And she hadn't told anyone that she had awakened precognitive abilities. Otherwise, if she suddenly got close to Lu Tingyan now, had definitely grow suspicious, thinking she'd foreseen something, and was approaching him with an agenda. In her recent prophetic dreams, she actually found that Lu Tingyan and Bai Su had gotten mixed up together. How could she stand that? Just some exiled bitch. Bai Shui coquettishly hugged Madame Bai's arm. "Oh Mom, please help me. Now Lu Tingyan and Bai Su are tangled up. If that woman really climbs into a high position, what if the things we did to her back then come to light? Maybe she deliberately climbed up the social ladder, planning to come back and take revenge on us." Madame Bai heard about the old incident, and a flash of murderous intent crossed her eyes. "She still isn't content." Bai Shui hurriedly said, "This time, we've all found out that Bai Su abducted beastfolk infant's ironclad evidence. But Lu Tingyan seems bewitched by her, and is covering for her. Mom, help me. We can take this opportunity to completely eliminate this hidden threat. And it would also stop Lu Tingyan from thinking about her every day." Lady Bai nodded slightly. "Alright, I'll make a call and have the Federation director come with you. This time she must be finished for good." Bai Shui cheered and hugged her. "Mom, I knew you were the best to me. Also, call some media to come along. We can't let the Federation director steal my credit. I was the one who led people to uncover her crime of trafficking Beastman infants." Lady Bai shook her head amusement. Alright, it was our little angel of justice who found her." She patted Bai Shui's head, then looked at her belly. "As a grade 5 female with grade 5 fertility, you should find some males to spread your lineage sooner. A grade 5 female is guaranteed at least 5 offspring per litter. And since her beast body is a rabbit, birthing 6 or 7 is also possible. In the Interstellar Federation, the more children a female beast person has, the higher her status. And rabbits have short conception cycles. After each litter, a rabbit beast person's physical constitution gets strengthened. This is very important for the female. Moreover, rabbit beastmen have frequent heat cycles. 1 or 2 times can be suppressed with medicine, but if it continues, it will damage the gestational sac and affect fertility, which would be counterproductive." Bai Shui coquettishly pouted. "Oh come on, I know. But I just want Lu Tingyan to be my first male husband." Madame Bai could only helplessly shake her head. Then after dealing with Bai Su, "I'll give you 3 months. You must win over Lu Tingyan." Bai Shui grinned and playfully blinked. "Don't worry. By then I'll be the righteous female who catches the scum trafficking cubs. My reputation will surely soar. I refuse to believe Lu Tingyan won't be moved." Night fell. Yodel and his assistant had already led the orcs from the troops to ambush the place in advance. The scars around Bai Xiaolang's eyes were now almost indistinguishable in shape. Under the cover of night they could be largely concealed. He disguised himself again, swapping to a cat beastman's ears and tail, with the tracker hidden in his belly. It was a new tracker developed by the Federation that could be swallowed and would pass through the intestines, not harming the digestive tract. Lu Tingyan and Bai Su crouched in the nearby grass watching. Soon, the contact appeared and Little White Wolf was led into the cave. The tracker was connected to Bai Xiaolang's 5 senses. From several hundred meters away in the police car, the monitors saw the scene inside the cave through Bai Xiaolang's eyes. Bai Su swallowed nervously, afraid something would happen to Bai Xiaolang. After all, he was still a 4-year-old child, though equivalent to 10 in human years. He was still a kid who had never seen anything like this. The contact led him deeper and deeper. The other end of the cave connected to a tunnel that twisted and turned. After many bends, they finally reached their destination. It was a dungeon, holding quite a number of children. Bai Xiaolang even saw those little beggars from the foot of the mountain who had suddenly vanished before. He looked longer, then transmitted the information outside. After waiting a while, the contact finally appeared. It turned out to be the border bureau in charge of the local frontier. No wonder these local ruffians could be so rampant. Bai Su clicked his tongue. Your Federation's personnel are so aspirational off-duty, and still risking their lives moonlighting to traffic people. Lu Tingyan's mouth twitched slightly, a response to her bitter joke. Through the earpiece came the voice of the rear monitoring staff. They've moved positions through a tunnel, about 2 kilometers due west, at an abandoned fur processing factory for a deal. Lu Tingyan nodded calmly and issued orders on the neural AI. Team 1 infiltrates from underground, and is responsible for locating the 15 hostages. Once Team 1 confirms the locations, Teams 2 to 4 will assault and secure the hostages. The intelligent brain sent back feedback. Team 1 began to move. Lu Tingyan moved with Bai Su to the outskirts of the fur processing factory. Once fighting broke out inside, he would be the first to rush in. Bai Su was a little nervous. Are you sure this will be okay? Lu Tingyan pressed his lips together. If nothing unexpected happens, it shouldn't be a big problem. Suddenly, the sound of a helicopter came from the sky. A loudspeaker shouted into the sky. Bai Su, stop hiding. Our instruments have already locked onto you. It was Bai Shue's voice. She not only brought a helicopter, but it was flying low, and orcs were descending from it in a continuous stream, clearly there to capture her. A flash of frost crossed Lu Tingyan's eyes as he quickly issued orders. They've spooked the beast. All squads break through and go in to rescue the hostage. Chapter 20. Take her too. Saying that, he turned to Bai Su. Stick close to me and don't act on your own. Bai Su pulled her neck in. You go, good luck. Lu Tingyan. Bai Su patted his shoulder. Imusalescent lift a chicken. Can't shoulder a burden, so I won't go make things harder for you. Lu Tingyan found it absurd in his heart, but when Bai Su did it, it somehow made sense. He had thought they had planned this operation together, that the little white werewolf was trapped inside, and that she would definitely want to rush in. He even considered how to protect her once they went in. He had rehearsed in his mind several times how to ensure her maximum safety with the least physical contact. He hadn't expected that she, so self-aware. Lu Tingyan's mouth twitched slightly. Fine, wait outside. With that, he led people rushing in. Bai Su squatted in the grass, and was soon spotted by Bai Shui on the helicopter. The director followed Bai Shui's cue, leading the orc unit over and, without a word, took the person down. The media snapped pictures madly from this side. Bai Su. Excitement flickered in Bai Shui's eyes as she hurried to the front. She suppressed the excitement in her eyes in front of everyone and put on a self-righteous expression. Sister, how could you traffic people? You've really disappointed us. I will never cover for you. Bai Su looked at her as if she were an idiot. Which eye of yours saw me trafficking people? Bai Shui, still trying to argue? Isn't there a deal going on inside? You really have no regard for the law. Do you think moving around in the middle of the night means no one will find out? You think Principal Lu would really cover for you? The director showing up here today is because he received orders from Principal Lu. Give it up, Principal Lu would never like you. Bai Su. She felt a bit speechless. Why on earth could such an idiotic person be the female lead? What kind of ancient romance novel features a naive, dopey heroine like that? She stands on the moral high ground and wreaks havoc. Then countless male leads jump in to clean up after her and showcase her virtue and goodness? Bai Su imagined Lu Tingyan showering Bai Shui with passionate tenderness and couldn't help breaking out in goosebumps. She only hoped the noise outside hadn't affected what was happening inside. A huge explosion suddenly rang out from the fur factory. Everyone jumped in fear. Hearing the sound, they looked over and saw shadows moving inside. Bai Shui looked at the chief. You should go quickly. You should be able to catch them red-handed. They'll stay here and watch. The chief naturally didn't want to miss the chance to make a contribution, and hurriedly rushed into the fur factory with some men. The surrounding media kept filming Bai Shui and Bai Su over and over. Some were even broadcasting live. A cat Beastman held a microphone toward Bai Su's direction. According to Miss Bai Shui, you've been involved in human trafficking abroad. And running the orphanage was just a way to sell children for money. Is that true? Bai Su scowled. Of course not. Bai Shui stood nearby, smug. Sister, don't argue. Everything has already been investigated and cleared up. So what good is your denial now? Bai Su stared at her, a surge of disgust rising uncontrollably in her heart. Bai Shui's petty, triumphant expression at having won favor looked exactly like how her own younger sister used to look every time she succeeded in competing for attention in her past life. Just as disgusting, makes me want to vomit, want to tear her face apart. In her last life, Bai Su endured in silence, only to be burned alive in the dressing room on her wedding day. Reborn, she refuses to suffer the same loss again. Bai Su looked at the reporters. Can't you see? My sister likes Lu Shangxiao, and because Lu Shangxiao is infatuated with me, she got jealous and deliberately smeared me. She turned to Bai Shui, cutting her off before she could defend herself. Sister, I already obeyed and withdrew from the Bai family. I won't fight you for the inheritance, Anna Mariso. Why won't you leave me alone? Is it just because Lu Shang likes me and doesn't like you? Even if you take off your clothes to seduce him, he still wouldn't like you. Is it my fault that he's constantly running after my heels? Don't you know better than anyone why I left the Bai family back then? How much more do you want me to do before you give up? Do you need me to die for you to finally feel at ease? When the reporters heard such explosive gossip, they hurriedly snapped their cameras like mad, and the live broadcast directly focused the lens on Bai Su's direction. But Bai Su simply couldn't cry convincingly. Her acting wasn't good enough. She pretended to break down and covered her face in anguish. Traisander, no rain. But in this kind of chaotic scene in the middle of the night, it was more than enough. Bai Shui was so angry her nose was about to wrinkle. She hurriedly shouted loudly, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who argued with you? You're the one trafficking people. You're the villain. You seduced Commander Lu. Commander Lu doesn't like you. He doesn't like you at all. Don't think you can cling to him using the media." Bai Su sniffled and looked at her. I told you I didn't traffic people. Why do you have to falsely accuse me like this? What does it have to do with me if Commander Lu likes me? He whispers sweet nothings to me every day. Says he can't live without me. Insists on eating the food I cook. Says he loves me so much he can't help himself. Am I at fault for being so irresistible? What can I do? Just then Lu Tingyan, who happened to come out and hear that, said. Bai Su glanced at him guiltily, then pretended to be busy and looked down to count her fingers. When Bai Shui saw Lu Tingyan come out, she hurried after him. Captain Lu, hurry up and tell us. You obviously don't like this woman. She's clinging to you like that, aren't you angry? Lu Tingyan has always kept himself pure, as she had already predicted. Whether before regaining his strength or after, there were never many flirtations around him. Lu Tingyan said calmly to Bai Su, saying sweet nothings to Miss Bai every day. You wouldn't be able to live without her? Bai Su covered her face to avoid the media's cameras while secretly forming words with her lips for him. I'll make you something delicious when we get home. Lu Tingyan. This woman really is. She knew exactly how to handle him. Bai Shui looked at Lu Tingyan expectantly, eagerly waiting for him to retort. Lu Tingyan, unusually, cleared his throat and tightened the corner of his mouth. You aren't entirely wrong. Bai Shui's face immediately fell. Captain Lu, you shouldn't indulge her and let her tarnish your reputation for the sake of her face. She's a trafficker. Only after speaking did she see the federal director being escorted out from behind. She was stunned. her voice hoarse, looking at Lu Tingyan in bewilderment. What's going on? Lu Tingyan, obstructing the operation, suspected of malicious disruption and aiding a criminal gang's escape. Bai Shui cried out in alarm. How is that possible? The federal director knew nothing. I was the one who called him. Lu Tingyan raised an eyebrow. Is it you? Bai Shui, yes. Lu Tingyan glanced sideways at the person beside him. Arrest her too. Bai Shui happily received a small silver bracelet. Chapter 21. The villagers clear up their misunderstanding about Bai Su. Bai Su saw Bai Xiaoling emerge beside her unharmed and let out a huge sigh of relief, stepping forward. Are you okay? Bai Xiaoling's expression was a little odd. He glanced at Lu Tingyan, then silently pressed his lips together and shook his head. I'm fine. Lu Tingyan also gave him a look. A dark shadow passed through his eyes. He then turned to say something to his adjutant Yoder. And only after that did he leave with Bai Su and Bai Xiaoling. Yodel expertly greeted the reporters, and explained the situation from the night. Bai Shui and the federal director were held nearby, listening together. Only then did the media realize that Miss Bai Su was not some human trafficker at all. On the contrary, she had been a participant who helped dismantle the human trafficking gang's stronghold that night. Strictly speaking, she could even be awarded a third-class merit. As an orphanage child, Bai Xiaoling bravely stepped forward to act as bait, and played a major role in this operation. Lu Tingyan's subordinates acted with decisive swiftness, uprooting the entire trafficking ring for orc infants along the border, and wiping out a large portion of the downstream networks that connected to it. In just 3 days, over 100 orc infants were rescued from the black market. This piece of social news broke because that night Bai Shui brought the media for a live broadcast. The orc network was also in an uproar. I'm stunned by this gossip. What's wrong with the second Miss Bai? So basically, someone was helping to catch the criminal. And she noisily dragged a crowd to sling mud and almost made things worse? What kind of person is this? Out of jealousy, she deliberately smeared someone and delayed their important work? It made me so irritated I felt sick. I wanted to curse, but I felt relieved when I saw her finally caught by Captain Lu. No, do you think this is reasonable? I remember Miss Bai, the second Miss of the Bai family, is already a level 5 female, right? With strong fertility, how could she be clinging to Captain Lu like that? Although I admit Captain Lu is handsome, he really doesn't seem to be a match for Miss Bai the second. Are we supposed to believe Miss Bai stabbed someone out of jealousy over competing for favor? Soon, the paparazzi dug up evidence that Miss Bai Air had been lurking around Lu Tingyan lately, leaving netizens speechless. The world of high society is so messy, I don't understand it, I really don't. I didn't expect to see the day when Headmaster Lu becomes a hot commodity again. The ferocity on the orc internet was intense, especially in recent years as the number of females dwindled. More and more males, twisted by the lack of females, vented their anger online. Because Bai Shui's jealous fight almost allowed the child traffickers to go free. The Bai family was implicated as well, and the shares of several major publicly listed companies under the Bai name declined. Some even began to question why the Bai family had exiled Miss Bai Su. To the border. What crime had she committed? Bai Shui collapsed at home and cried for days, shouting that she wanted to tear Bai Su to pieces. Mrs. Bai, afraid the paparazzi would dig up the old matter, had no choice but to issue a statement accepting Bai Su, saying she would bring Bai Su back soon. When she saw the news, Bai Su was cooking in the kitchen. The little ones had connected to her smart brain and projected the news onto the wall screen. The cubs were holding Bai Xiaoling's trophy, inspecting it from both sides, extremely curious. Bai Xiaoling sat at the table, staring gloomily at the news on the screen. The tension in his back betrayed his mood. He suddenly turned his head and looked at Bai Su, who was cooking with her back to him. Director Mama, will you return to the Bai family? Bai Su was quickly dealing with the crab gills. Why would I go back there? Father doesn't care for me, mother doesn't love me. Go back and be bullied. Bai Xiaoling's tense back finally relaxed a bit, his eyes shining as he stared at Bai Su. You're not going back? Bai Su glanced at him with amusement, then continued cooking. Not going back. Why would I? You're still not over wanting to find a new headmistress, Mom? At that, Bai Xiaoling hurriedly lunged forward to hug her thigh, burying his face in embarrassment. No. Bai Su rubbed his head amusingly. I haven't even asked you what did you and Lu Tingyan talk about that day? You two chattered on for so long? Bai Xiaoling recalled that day's events, his eyes darkening. That day in the cave, the traffickers were alarmed. They soon sensed something was wrong and tried to kill the children to silence them. Bai Xiaoling used his innate companion ability to save the children, tearing open space. The companion ability was something he had from birth. With his wolf claws he could rip a 5-meter-wide black void in any place. Anyone who approached that void would be sucked into the black hole and disappear. When those people rushed forward he unleashed his ability and tore open a 5-meter-wide black void. The traffickers at the front were pulled in and vanished from the world. Lu Tingyan stood at the mouth of the void, his sharp gaze filled with utter disbelief. The rift appeared in an instant and vanished just as quickly. Only Lu Tingyan saw it. Later, Lu Tingyan asked to speak with him alone, and asked why he had ripped the space. He said that it was his symbiotic ability. He still clearly remembered what Lu Tingyan said that day. He said tearing space is a hereditary blood ability passed down through the leader lineage. You're my son, who is your mother? Bai Xiaoling couldn't answer. Had been in the orphanage for as long as he could remember. But he didn't really want a father. None of the children in the orphanage had fathers. Fathers weren't anything special. He wouldn't indulge Lu Tingyan just because he might be his father, allowing him to try to steal the headmistress mum away. Lu Tingyan said he would investigate and help him find his mother. He just thought the other person was being unnecessary. He didn't need any extra parents. The Dean mother as she was now was fine. She could cook very delicious meals. Bai Su saw him staring blankly and rubbed his head again. I'm asking you. That day you and Lu Tingyan talked so furtively for so long. And ever since you've been out of sorts, what were you talking about? Bai Xiaoling came back to himself and shook his head. Nothing, just a little secret between men. Bai Su laughed and cried at the same time. Alright, so now you have little secrets behind my back. Just as they were about to eat. It got noisy outside again. Bai Xiaoling and several children hurried out to see, only to find the villagers from below the mountain swarming up to the gates again. The children watched them warily, standing at the orphanage entrance. What do you want? Bai Su was frying lotus root cakes with one hand, and making scallion oil dressed crab with the other. She had heard the commotion outside and guessed they were all here to thank her. She stuck her head out. No rude behavior. The females led by Xiaomi smelled the aroma filling the yard and couldn't help but look dazed. It smells so good. What is that smell? It's too fragrant. Mom, I'm drooling. I've never smelled anything this wonderful. Bai Su poked her head out from the kitchen and looked at them. What do you want from me? I'm cooking. Wait a moment. Xiaomi hurriedly nodded, then leaned over curiously. Bai Su, what are you doing? Why does the cooking smell like this? It smells really good. Bai Su didn't look back. Just fiddling around, the kids like it. Xiaomi's face flushed. So what those people said was true, you really can cook. Bai Su said warmly. Your beast husband wanted to come here a few days ago to steal my techniques and learn, so he could go back and cook for you. The female outside leaned over to take a look, and couldn't help flushing. They all swallowed when they smelled the enticing aroma. How could the male workers at home, who do hard, rough work every day, resist? Maybe they had really wronged Bai Su before. Such delicious-smelling food made them want to come sniff it every day. Just smelling it lifted their spirits. Chapter 22. Bai Xiaoling is your son? Bai Su had already guessed they'd come today. So she had simply fried up a few extra lotus root patties, packed them into takeaway boxes, and gave each of them one to take home. When Lu Tingyan arrived, he saw the females lined up at the orphanage gate. He raised an eyebrow and walked in. Just in time to see Bai Su coming out carrying a box, handing the food out to them. The females couldn't help but look at her with gratitude, thanking and apologizing at the same time, thanking her for helping rescue the child, and for giving them such delicious food, and apologizing for the rumors they'd before. After everyone left, Lu Tingyan finally went in, sat on the sofa, and watched the news with a few little cubs, waiting for dinner. Bai Su didn't even turn her head and said, "You're back?" Lu Tingyan was dazed for a long moment before realizing she was talking to him, and he vaguely replied. No one had ever spoken to him in such casual, domestic terms. Lu Tingyan sat on the sofa, took off his military cap, and stared blankly at Baisu's busy figure. Beside him the children were frolicking, and noisy news played on the wall. The kitchen was actually open plan, connected to the living room, with bright, warm light enveloping the whole kitchen and living area. Something was bubbling on the stove. Baisu lazily twisted her hair up. A few strands fell softly at her temples and the nape of her neck, swaying gently left and right with her practiced movements. Lu Tingyan felt as if everything before him was shrouded in a faint halo, warm and beautiful to the point of seeming unreal. His gaze uncontrollably fell on her back. She seemed much thinner. He wondered if it was from too much hardship. But her complexion did not look at all haggard. Her skin was always very fair, and her hair was piled high, exposing the pale, tender nape. The soft line of her neck had a natural sensuality. Her smooth earlobe peeked in and out among the stray hairs at her temples. He stared silently, inexplicably parched in the mouth, wanting to sweep those stray hairs aside and fully expose the glistening, smooth earlobe to his view. To look at it as long as he wanted. Her hands were actually very pretty, slender and rounded, the fingertips and the joints at the wrists showing a delicate flesh pink. The pads of her fingers flushed, with an indescribable, languid allure. Such a beautiful pair of hands placed on a dewy white radish made the radish no longer look like a radish, the knife no longer look like a knife. It was as if performing some decorative artistic act meant solely for admiring those hands. Suddenly, the cozy scene was blocked by a little black face that had sagged. Bai Xiaoling blocked his view with an unfriendly expression. Pretty, huh? Lu Tingyan. Bai Xiaoling lowered his voice to warn him, stay away from my Dean Mama. Or don't blame me for being ruthless. Lu Tingyan came to his senses, suddenly realizing he had been staring at this woman for a long time. What the hell? He clearly despised females the most. And among females he despised the one before him the most. Their relationship was merely one of mutual use. She used him to bring the orphanage under the Federation's jurisdiction, and to shake off her exile status. He used the food she made to heal and restore his spirit power. These days he had been eating the food she made. The left eye, which had become heterochromic due to injury, had clearly begun to feel light coming in. The spirit power in his body was no longer faint and flickering. It had begun to show obvious budding effects. Lu Tingyan withdrew his gaze. Don't worry, I'm not interested in your headmistress, mother. Bai Xiaoling looked clearly distrustful of him. You had better be. Baisu brought the dishes to the table. Wash your hands, time to eat. Ow. The children cheered, scrambling up to wash their hands. Today's dishes were braised pork knuckle in savory sauce, sweetened sour pork with pineapple, chestnut stewed chicken, lemon shrimp, braised lamb, and beef stewed with potatoes. Both big and small were carnivorous animals. She figured out that they were clearly meat-eaters. If she cooked them pork, beef and mutton to eat, the wounds on their bodies would heal much faster. But perhaps due to differences in spiritual power, Bai Xiaoling's wounds were about 70 to 80% healed, while Lu Tingyan's wounds were only 2 or 3% healed. Baisu estimated that the healing effect needed for an orc with 5th level spiritual power versus one with 9th level spiritual power differed greatly. But that suited her perfectly. She hadn't yet squeezed the truth of those past events out of Lu Tingyan's mouth. She wasn't going to let him go that easily. Lately her body had been constantly warm, especially around her lower abdomen, with an indescribable feeling. Baisu remembered what happened last night, looked up at Lu Tingyan, and saw he was staring straight at her. His narrow eyes full of curiosity. She held her chopsticks upright. What are you looking at? Don't eat and stare at me. Do I have food on my face? Lu Tingyan. He must be out of his mind to think this woman is gorgeously attractive. Isn't she just a female with slightly bigger eyes, a bit higher nose bridge, lips plump and moist, chubby cheeks, and a pair of cute drooping rabbit ears? Baisu's true form is a Holland Lop rabbit. Judging by the pale color of her ears, light milk coffee, it's probably due to malnutrition in childhood. Well-raised Holland Lop beastfolk should have ears that are a pure orange, not like hers, which look like very light chocolate milk. The coat color is set once they reach adulthood, but he thought she was actually quite cute like that. But Baisu suddenly asked him, Bai Shui, what did you do with them? Lu Tingyan heard this and his eyes cooled slightly. They were held at the federal police station, detained for 3 days as a warning. After all, she was a female, and a level 5 female at that, with excellent fertility and certain privileges, so they couldn't really do much to her. But the federal marshal wasn't so lucky, was suspended and put under investigation. After all, this operation had a huge impact. It rescued over 100 orc infants. The social repercussions and the online debate this stirred across the interstellar beast empire were no joke. If the rescue had failed because of the marshal's problems and over 100 infants had died, he would have been executed by the Federation. Bai Su nodded, but didn't say anything. She had guessed as much. Bai Shui's identity was obvious, and she was the novel's heroine, so no matter what they did they couldn't punish her too severely. If they punished her too harshly it might even trigger the heroine halo buff, and call in the second or third male lead to save her. Bai Su finished eating, tossed the bowls to the children to wash, and turned to go upstairs to shower. Lu Tingyan watched her go up the stairs, then suddenly said, "Actually, you could make more of the plant-based dishes you like. You don't have to cater to us meat-eating beast people." Bai Su turned her head, scowling at him. "I, a rabbit, am an omnivore. I don't necessarily have to eat grass." The little white wolf beside her also scowled, his eyes full of warning. Lu Tingyan stared at those two very similar faces, one big and one small, and felt a sudden stir in his heart. Bai Su, a scheming woman who used every trick to climb up and cling to power. After that incident years ago, she secretly left while pregnant with his child, perhaps intending to use the baby as leverage to get something from him. What exactly, no one knows. He would never be mistaken about the companion ability on by Xiaolang. It is absolutely his child. Moreover, last night he had his assistant test his, and by Xiaolang's hairs there's no doubt Bai Xiaolang is his son. Lu Tingyan's eyes darkened slightly, his gaze suddenly fixed on the woman opposite. Bai Su, Bai Xiaolang is yours, isn't he? Chapter 23. Lu Tingyan's heart flutters. Hearing that, little white wolf couldn't help but be stunned. If he were the Dean mother's son, could such a good thing really happen to him? Bai Su rolled her eyes. "Are you okay? I already said I can't have children. If he were my child, do you think I would have been exiled back then?" When Lu Tingyan heard this, the doubts in his heart temporarily dissipated. What she said wasn't without reason. It's just, he couldn't tell whether he was relieved or something else. His heart suddenly felt like it skipped a beat. Night fell. Lu Tingyan tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. After taking care of the little ones in the evening, he had only eaten about 60 to 70% full. He had dinner around 6. And now around 10 he was already hungry. His mind couldn't help but replay the sumptuous dinner at the table earlier, and he swallowed involuntarily. The scene spreads from the dining table to the kitchen, and in his mind appears the image of Bai Su skillfully beginning to cook. The dewy white radish is gently pressed by her rosy wrist and sliced piece by piece. Her body sways lightly with the chopping, strands of hair at her temples constantly brushing against her earlobe and the hollow of her neck, surely causing little tingles. The vision of the hair gently swaying in the hollow of her neck, and her earlobe half hidden among the strands keeps alternating in his mind. Lu Tingyan's Adam's apple bobbed slightly, the nameless heat made him frown in discomfort. Turning over in the moonlight, he pulled the quilt up in front of him, and slid his hands into the covers. The loose, baggy pajamas were stretched taut by the arching of his back, making it easy to see the solid muscles along his spine, and his inverted triangle physically an intense sense of power. 2 hours later, the heat had been soothed. Lu Tingyan slowly exhaled a breath of stale air, and hugged the quilt, sinking into a deep sleep. Moonlight gently cast a shadow across his handsome profile. The deep eye sockets and alluring lip line had an indescribable sensuality. In a hazy daze, Lu Tingyan seemed to smell the sweet scent of peaches, and those soft, fair hands lightly pressed down on the white radish. The radish in his hands changed shape again. She squatted right in front of him, smiling at him sweetly. Her fair hand, with soft tender flesh, had been rubbed red. Lu Tingyan suddenly opened his eyes. Outside it was already broad daylight. He threw off the quilt, caught the familiar scent, muttered under his breath, and got up to go to the bathroom to shower. When he came out, the assistant was in his room, sorting the clothes and uniform he had changed out of yesterday. On the tea table was a fruit plate. A few ripe peaches were emitting a sweet fragrance that instantly cut through the summer heat. But Lu Tingyan immediately fell silent, scolding displeasedly, "Who told you to put peaches in my room?" The assistant was startled and hurriedly took the peaches out.
Sorry, Colonel.
"Because peaches are in season and I thought you might want some, I had the housekeeping buy some." Lu Tingyan pinched the bridge of his nose. The assistant, carrying several peaches, was about to leave. Just as he was about to step out, Lu Tingyan called after him, "Leave one and put it there." Used to his moodiness, the assistant quickly picked the ripest peach, set it down, and quietly withdrew. Lu Tingyan walked over and picked up the peach. A refreshing peach scent hit him, mixed with a sweet note. Compared to the scent on her, it was far inferior. The peach fragrance on her seemed blended with some warm, sweet herbal note, both sweet and refreshing. Yet when sniffed closely it inexplicably carried a hint of warmth, evoking an ungrounded, suggestive feeling. It was like the sweet flesh of a peach being gently warmed by a girl's body, giving off a fresh sweetness mixed with the girl's unique scent. One bite would make the juices burst and flow endlessly. When Lu Tingyan realized what his mind was thinking, his sanity quickly returned. He took a deep breath. The thought that he was tossing and turning over by Sue, feeling irritated, made him want to snap. He grabbed the peach on the table and bit into it hard. After tasting the rich, refreshing peach aroma, his Adam's apple involuntarily bobbed. Baisu noticed the kids were eating more and more, especially little white wolf one meal. He could almost eat as much as Lu Tingyan. At this rate, she really wouldn't be able to afford these little ones. Luckily, because she had recently helped dismantle a human trafficking ring, her mountaintop orphanage had gained a bit of a reputation, and Lu Tingyan had also sent people to completely renovate it. The road up the mountain was easy to travel. She decided to take this opportunity to open a food shop on the mountain. The reason she had given the lotus root boxes to the villagers at the foot of the mountain before was for this very reason. It was useless for her to say they were delicious. Other people had to say they were delicious. Moreover, she discovered that by healing others with food, she could earn points redeemable in the shop. The system, that traitor, hadn't told her. When the system sensed her thoughts, it quickly whimpered an excuse for itself. Because the points gained from healing with food are very few, how could they compare to having a baby? Having a baby grants a huge amount of points. You can use all the skills in the shop. Moreover, the points in the shop aren't entirely due to healing ability. Lu Tingyan's heartthrob points are mixed in there too. Baisu was stunned for a moment. Lu Tingyan's heartthrob points? The system said excitedly, "Yes. Host, you're really amazing. He's the male lead who hates you the most, bar none. And yet he's become smitten with you. Baisu. But if I want to exchange for skill-type pills and pills that boost mental power, I can only use the golden points. And the golden points only come from having the male lead bear my children, right?" The system nodded weakly, "Yes. Baisu, in short, Lu Tingyan's heart value is worthless." The system hurriedly said, "It's not that worthless if the male lead isn't moved. How will you bear their children, right?" Baisu will see later. She didn't really want to have children right now. And although she was level 2, the system said she had no fertility. She liked children very much and wanted to have a child of her own in this world. But it would be fine if she didn't want to force it. Baisu was a person of action. She said she would open a mountaintop gourmet restaurant, and had it up and running in less than 3 days. This was essentially her old trade. In her previous life she had made her fortune by running restaurants, growing the business big and strong. She turned the orphanage on the mountaintop into a small restaurant called Mountain Wild Flavors. The little ones all helped out in the shop serving dishes. Those who came to eat were basically all residents from below the mountain. Gradually, rumors began to spread down the mountain. Since eating the meals Baisu made, I feel like my body is in great shape. My old chronic leg pain is cured. My nearsightedness seems to be cured too. I've been eating this for over half a month. A couple of days ago I suddenly realized I'm pregnant again. It's quadruplets. When these words came out, the females down the mountain exploded even more. Baisu also started live streaming on the internet. Every time she cooked she pointed the camera at herself and broadcast the whole process of her cooking. She was confident in her cooking skills. Chinese cuisine using the same ingredients, the same methods, and the same portion control, it's still hard for the taste to be exactly identical. The secret lies in the details. Besides, she possessed a healing ability that enhanced her dishes, making them taste many times better. Even if others could replicate her recipes, they couldn't reproduce the deliciousness brought by the healing power in her food. She planned to use live streaming to make a name for herself, and thereby attract more customers. By the way, she'll also use this chance to look for the other 3 children who were sold. They're all future big villains. One's already a little white wolf. And there are 3 more waiting for her. Chapter 24 Orphanage overhauled into a delicious restaurant. As soon as the live stream started, quite a few people poured in to watch the spectacle, even questioning her. These food raw materials are ridiculously cheap. Using this outdated method to prepare them, can it possibly taste good? I think I saw this kind of cooking in a history book. These techniques seriously destroy the food's nutrients. What they produce is basically inedible. Even stunts for clicks need limits, right? Isn't this wasting food? With so many ingredients being ruined, they might as well be sent to a factory to be canned or turned into nutrient paste. Really, it pains me to watch this food is just being wasted. She actually used frying oil. Fried food has no nutrition at all, and can even produce harmful substances. Is she making drugs? The Bai family had originally reluctantly decided to take Bai Su back home, but upon seeing the online public opinion, they immediately changed their minds. Bai Shui was the first to jump out and distance herself. Although she is one of our Bai family, she was expelled from our home 4 years ago for committing a grave mistake. The Bai family enforces strict discipline. A female absolutely cannot do those disgraceful things in public. Madame Bai also displeasedly declared at a prestigious banquet in the capital that she would never bring home a woman who flaunted herself online for attention, lest she tarnish the family ethos and reputation. Bai Su had no time to care about the Bai family, and she hadn't intended to return anyway. Most of the people who ate her food lived down the mountain. They rarely used the internet, so they didn't know Bai Su was being mocked online. Bai Xiaoling could recognize some characters, and knew that Bai Su was being insulted in the livestream. He was very angry and even secretly borrowed Aunt Xiaomi's SmartBrain wristband to register an account and insult back. But he only knew a few characters, and there were too many people insulting Bai Su, so he couldn't reply to them all. At night, the shop finally closed. Bai Xiaoling saw Bai Su resting and sat beside her, then moved closer and moodily hugged her arm. "Director Mama." Bai Su noticed he was in a bad mood and hurried over to nudge his nose with hers. "What's wrong?" Nose touching in the wolf pack is a very trusting, intimate gesture that can quickly close the distance between 2 individuals. Bai Xiaoling looked at her sadly. "Why did you start live streaming?" Bai Su, seeing his wolf ears and wolf tail drooping like that, pretty much guessed. She amusedly patted his little head and gave the furry little ears a playful tug. "There will definitely be people who doubt you at first, but once things stabilize it'll be fine." She didn't just brush him off because Bai Xiaoling was still a child. She earnestly explained to him, "Besides, live streaming can bring traffic to us. Our shop is in the suburbs of the capital. It was only recently brought under federal administration, so there aren't many people here to begin with. Live streaming can help us increase our visibility and boost exposure. Besides, didn't you want to find the other 3 kids? If we grow our store's streaming account and get more viewers, wouldn't it be easier to appeal for their return on the account?" Bai Xiaoling widened his eyes at her words. "Do you really want to bring them back?" Bai Su didn't hesitate. "Of course. We couldn't afford to keep them before, which is why we sent them away. Now we have money, we're law-abiding citizens here. So of course we're going to bring the kids back. We can't let these little antagonists run around freely and be raised into all sorts of sick, gloomy perverts. Otherwise she's afraid she won't survive much longer." Seeing this, Bai Xiaoling thought calmly for a moment, then nodded resolutely. "Okay. I'll help you. If they scold us, we'll take it together. Once they eat the food you make, they'll know how delicious it is." Bai Su smiled and nodded. "That's right. Getting scolded is only temporary." The next day, Bai Xiaoling was even more energetic. His face had always been good. After his eyes and wolf tail were healed, and Bai Su had nursed him clean and bright, It was already easy to see he would grow into a strikingly handsome little fellow. Xiaomi couldn't help teasing. Baisu, the kids in your courtyard are looking more and more like you. You didn't secretly give birth to them, did you? Baisu glanced at her amusedly. If I had given birth to them, that would have been better. I wouldn't mind having a little Shota who's this handsome, well-behaved and sensible. Everyone laughed kindly. Little by Wolf, cheeks flushed, carried dishes and wove even more quickly between the tables. Baisu's live stream received more and more complaints, but along with that, the stream's popularity kept rising. The stream even had the location for the mountaintop restaurant tagged. Someone was actually drawn in. The newcomer was also a streamer, called Yin Xiaolu, who specializes in exposing fakes online. He had once roamed the markets of multiple cities, specializing in exposing sinister plots of collusion between market officials and merchants, so his reputation online was excellent. He rose to fame overnight by exposing a canned meat market in the southern market. The southern market, famous for its nutritious fresh meat cans, attracted heavy customer traffic. But the cans were sold at very high prices. Yin Xiaolu discovered that there was even an air layer under the bottom of these cans, which meant a can that appeared to contain 500 g of fresh meat might actually only have 300 or 400 grams. This exposé video sparked widespread attention online, and Yin Xiaolu became famous overnight, turning into a hero in the eyes of ordinary people with an excellent reputation. Yin Xiaolu stood at the doorway without entering, holding up a camera and live streaming. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm now at this small restaurant called Mountain Wild Delicacies. How does the owner cook, and why is this kind of food-wasting behavior so popular locally? Let's go in and take a look together. Yin Xiaolu stepped inside, and even before entering he caught a whiff of the smell. Damn, what is that smell? Damn Maku. Ha 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 ha, it's definitely the smell from food being ruined, I knew it. I've never seen anyone throw food into a hot oil pan and add seasonings like that. It neither sanitizes nor purifies the nutrients in the food. What's the point? Of course it just makes the food taste worse. Of course it's just for the gimmick to cheat views. So excited. The keyboard-wielding warriors are ready, just waiting for Yan Shen to reveal her true face. Wasting food like this, and still selling it at the same high price as canned goods, it's truly grounds for reporting to the authorities. Canned food is expensive because it extracts and concentrates a large amount of nutrients from the food. The high price is understandable. She's just making the food taste worse, and selling the nutrients along with the food scraps to consumers. Disgusting. The crowd here is probably all plants she hired. If it tastes good, there must be a ghost. To everyone's surprise, after Yan Xiaoyu widened his eyes, his next sentence was, "It smells so good, my mouth's watering." Just then Bai Xiaolong carried over the customer's order of quail eggs and potato stewed beef brisket. Baisu had modified it, adding a touch of curry and blending it with a Chinese braised flavor, rich, spicy, and very popular. Yin Xiaoyu couldn't help but trail behind Bai Xiaolong, sniffing the whole way. His drool nearly flooded the place. The dishes were brought to the table, and when Bai Xiaolong turned his head, he collided with Yen Xiaolia's chest. He frowned slightly, took 2 steps back and tilted his head up to look at the big, burly Yin Xiaolu. Guest, are you here to eat? How many people? Live comments. Ah, such an adorable little wolf cub. Wow, so obedient. Fluffy white ears and a white tail. My blood gauge is empty. Hiss hiss hiss. Fine fine fine, you tricked me into birthing wolf pups again. If they come out looking different from this, I will make a fuss. The pup is so cute, Auntie wants kisses. Who understands? His look is really so cold and composed. That damn contrast, I love it like crazy. I get it. This shop must be using this little mascot to attract customers, right? If coming in to spend lets you freely pet a little wolf pup's face, I could be persuaded. Wake up upstairs. The cub is underage, you could be charged with molestation. Wah. Chapter 25. Swayed by osmanthus pickled fish. Yin Xiaolu came to his senses and smelled that same sweet scent again. He followed the aroma to the nearby table, just a spread of shrimp and crab. How could it be giving off such a honeyed fragrance? On the other side of the table sat a pot bubbling and simmering, and the whole group, chatting and laughing, were adding raw slices of meat into it, swishing them briefly and then picking them out to dip into the little bowls. Truly peculiar. Bai Xiaoling patiently asked again, guest, are you here to eat? Just one person? Yin Xiaolu snapped back to himself and hurriedly nodded. These smells are coming from those foods. Bai Xiaoling nodded. He wasn't surprised by the reaction anymore. Every time a new guest arrived, they more or less went through this routine. Yin Xiaolu hastily said, then I want to eat, order dishes, order dishes. Bai Xiaoling, if it's just you, I'll take you to a window seat on the second floor. Yin Xiaolu was eager. Okay. It would be a good chance to stream what's happening downstairs. Comments. With that eager, I must expose the fraud. Look, I'm dying laughing. Poor little wolf cubs. They have no idea what their shop is about to face, do they? Wah. My heart aches for the little wolf cubs. Suddenly I don't want Yin Shen to expose them anymore. Wake up upstairs. Why feel sorry for a shop that hires child labor? If the shop goes under, they can at least rescue the cubs. That's true. Yin Xiaolu asked. What was it you just brought over? Bai Xiaoling. Curry potatoes stewed with beef brisket. Give me an order. Bai Xiaoling nodded. Okay. Yin Xiaolu. What other signature dishes do you have? And that one with a pot bubbling on the table, give me one of those too. No. Bring me every single dish your place makes. I want to see what all the fuss is about. Bai Xiaoling frowned slightly. We can't waste food. If you can't finish it, it will be a waste. Yin Xiaolu waved his hand. It's fine. At worst I'll pack it up and take it home. Keep it there and eat it slowly later. Bai Xiaoling kindly reminded him. The dishes in our shop are different from canned food. We don't add any preservatives or anti-spoilage additives, so they can't be kept for long. Even in the fridge they only stay fresh for a day or two and must be eaten. Yin Xiaolu frowned at that. That troublesome? Comment stream. Good grief, how is this any different from raw fresh ingredients? My canned food has at least a 3-year shelf life. Boosters last even longer. What's the use of food that can't be preserved? I really don't get it. This place probably just slaps together fresh food and pretends to be fancy, thinking everyone will be amazed because they've never seen it before. Unbelievable. I thought putting things in a pot and doing this and that counted as processing, but fresh food is still fresh food and can't be preserved long-term. I really don't understand what kind of nerve they have to mark it up like that after handling the ingredients this way. As expected, the longer you live, the more you see all kinds of monsters and devils. Yin Xiaolu didn't want to waste food either. After thinking for a moment, he said, all right then, bring me one order of your most popular dishes so I can try them. Start with 7 or 8 plates. And that bubbling pot can be put aside for now. Bai Xiaoling nodded. Okay. He turned to the kitchen to serve dishes and told Bai Su about the situation, including that Yin Xiaolu was holding a device and live streaming. Because Bai Su was also live streaming, he recognized that device. By his intuition, this person definitely had bad intentions. Had been loitering outside the courtyard for a long time before coming in. He was a wolf with keen hearing, and just happened to overhear what Yin Xiaolu was saying outside about coming to expose a fraud. If he hadn't seen him on the live stream, Bai Xiaoling would have kicked the person out. Bai Su felt a stir in her heart, knowing this was an opportunity. She patted Bai Xiaoling's head. Then serve this customer well. Do you know what kind of beast he is? Bai Xiaoling obediently nodded. From the looks of it, he seems to be an alligator beastman. The backs of his hands were all crocodile hide, and his eyes were the distinctive golden vertical pupils of crocodile beastfolk. Bai Su thought for a moment and made osmanthus fermented fish, rose wine-drunk shrimp, scallion oil golden pomfret, garlic oysters, lemon prawn balls, and rosemary seared salmon for Yen Xiaolia's table. Crocodiles would probably prefer these river and sea delicacies. She had Bai Xiaoling carry the food over to Yin Xiaolu. Meanwhile, Yin Xiaolu was drooling with appetite. Bai Xiaoling brought out the first plate of osmanthus fermented fish, and he couldn't wait to grab a spoon and dig into the fish. Beastfolk hardly ever cook. Their food is canned and nutrient paste, so most are used to scooping cans with a spoon to eat. At the first bite, Yin Xiaolia's eyes widened. Holy crap, this is unbelievable. Damn Maku, so how is it? Is it super disgusting? I knew it. Fish treated like this must be fishy and stinky. Fished up and quickly frozen to stay fresh. Then sent to a factory to be processed and canned to preserve the flavor, right? Even when it's handled by a factory, I don't really like canned fish, such a strong fishy smell. I can't imagine if it wasn't frozen to preserve it. The fish dies and is just left like that. Then exposed to high heat which speeds up oxidation. How horribly rotten would it smell? Laughing to death. It's the first time I felt so sorry for Yen Shun. The sacrifice is too great. If you don't shower him with gifts now, it's unreasonable. Give Yen Shun some compensation for his mental anguish. Yen Xiaolu eagerly dug in for another bite of fish. A plate of osmanthus fish was soon licked clean. He found the spoon troublesome, grabbed the fish skeleton with his hands and sucked on it for a long time. Then, still not satisfied, he licked the plate dry, his eyes excited as if had been injected with adrenaline. This is so delicious. This is really so delicious. Damn, how can fish be made like this? So fragrant, so tender, so smooth, so tasty. I'm going crazy. I feel like I wasted the first half of my life. I can't believe I've never eaten something this good. This is a miracle. This must be a miracle. Bullet comments, huh? What did I miss here? Has Lord Yin been driven mad by provocation? No way. Even Lord Yin has started taking shop review ads now. Yinshin, wake up. Don't mind those small gifts. If you're bold, say it out. We'll shower you with presents. Yen Xiaolu kept smacking his lips, savoring the aftertaste, his face dazed as if bewitched. After a long while he came to himself and faced the live stream camera. Brothers, I wasn't acting. I really wasn't acting. That dish was insane. I swear you've never tasted anything like it. This shit blows canned food out of the water by like 800 streets, okay? Really, if I, Yen Xiaolu, am lying to you, may I be punished to never be liked by a female for my whole life. I swear by the beast god, that dish just now was amazing, spirally amazing. My mouth still smells of osmanthus. How can I describe that taste to you? Rich, savory, with a bit of fermented rice flavor, and a strong sweet osmanthus fragrance. The fish meat was very tender, very fresh and delicately sweet. Amazing! I've never eaten fish this fresh and sweet. I even doubted whether it was fish. It really tastes better than the most expensive canned food. Chapter 26. Is the food poisoned? Soon, Bai Xiaoling brought up the remaining dishes. Rose wine drunken shrimp, scallion oil golden pomfret, garlic oysters, lemon shrimp balls and rosemary seared salmon. Bai Su said she was afraid he wouldn't recognize them, so she had him explain them from the side. Bai Xiaoling explained one by one. These drunken shrimp are served raw, marinated in rose rice wine. They taste sweet, glutinous and cold. The shrimp used are firm black tiger shrimp and sweet shrimp, both sashimi grade and safe to eat raw. Yen Xiaolu tried a bite and nearly cried. His mouth full of nothing but words like miracle and awesome. This is scallion oil pomfret steamed. Although pomfret has few bones, guests should still be careful. Dip the fish meat in the steamed fish sauce from the broth for a better flavor. Yen Xiaolu wept. So clean and sweet. I've never eaten fish this clean and sweet. It's completely different from that osmanthus fermented fish from before. It's so delicious. Garlic butter oysters are oysters marinated in minced garlic and rice wine, then grilled over an open charcoal flame. Careful. The shells are hot. Yen Xiaolu couldn't wait and tried one. His eyes widened instantly. This is an oyster? Is this really an oyster? How can an oyster be this tender, savory, and spicy? Incredible, when you bite it, it even bursts with juice. Such a rich garlic aroma. Lemon shrimp balls use high-grade little crayfish meat. After shelling and deveining, they're coated in a thin batter and quickly fried. The exterior is topped with a layer of cheese sauce and a hint of wasabi. Yen Xiaolu ate one and felt like his soul was already in heaven. Such a complex, intense flavor. I think I need to take a breather. This is so delicious. It's so tasty I can't even bear to eat it in one bite. This shrimp is both springy and firm and bursts with juice. The wasabi's flavor is wonderful. I didn't know wasabi was even edible. The lemon is absolutely the finishing touch. It brightens and cuts the richness so well, perfectly balancing the cheese sauce. It's so refreshing for summer. Bai Xiaoling relaxed inside. He knew no one could refuse Dean Mama's cooking. He pointed at the last dish and said, "This is rosemary seared salmon." The spices inside are rosemary and garlic, with the buttery aroma of butter, and a bit of black pepper, so it has a slight spicy fragrance. Yen Xiaolu had completely gone crazy. His eyes were reddened. Part of him wanted to desperately stuff it all into his mouth, but another part couldn't bear to, afraid that by eating too quickly he'd miss any of the complex aromas hidden in each delicacy. Live comments. Is this for real? Is it really that tasty? Isn't food mostly for extracting nutrients and maintaining our daily energy expenditure? No matter how delicious, how good can it really be? I actually don't quite get it. I can't imagine what that would taste like. But the tastiest canned food is just so-so, right? I feel like Yinshin might be exaggerating a bit. It's making me a little curious too. I really want to try and see what's going on. Yinshin actually got flustered, feels like it really was exaggerated. Yen Xiaolu had no time to deal with that. It was as if his appetite for good food had been suddenly awakened, ate mouthful after mouthful with reverence and infatuation. After quickly finishing the dishes on the table, he waved his large hand and said to Bai Xiaoling, "The exact same food. Bring another portion." "No, bring 3 more. Bai Xiaoling had guessed as much and nodded calmly. "All right, please wait a moment." In the kitchen, Bai Su was very confident in her cooking skills. And viewers from her livestream had already found their way to her, taunting her and asking how exactly she had won over Yen Xiaolu. Judging by the reaction, Yen Xiaolu must really like it. So she started preparing in advance, already guessing Yen Xiaolu would want extra servings. Sure enough, Bai Xiaoling returned soon and asked for 3 more servings of the same dish. Bai Su cooked with great vigor. Seeing the ingredients nearly depleted, she figured she'd probably close early again today. She ran this restaurant alone, so she only stocked fresh ingredients within her capacity. When the day's supplies ran out, she would close up shop early. 3 identical dishes were quickly brought to the table. Yen Xiaolu rolled up his sleeves and, no longer caring about appearances, began to eat heartily. It was barely enough to count as being full. Bai Su had Bai Xiaoling bring him another serving of hawthorn and jujube paste jelly as a small dessert to aid digestion after the meal. Yen Xiaolu had been completely tamed by Bai Su's cooking. While gratefully eating the cold cake, he grabbed Little Bai Wolf. "Little one, is your chef really a little female? Can I meet her?" Little Bai Wolf eyed him warily. "Why do you want to see our Dean Mom?" Yen Xiaolu quickly waved his hand. "Don't worry, I mean no harm. I just want to thank her in person. Her food is so delicious. It's like a blessing from the beast god. Oh, come again tomorrow." Little Bai Wolf thought for a moment. "No need. Dean Mom is already very tired today." Yen Xiaolu felt a bit regretful. Well then, what a pity. I'm really curious what kind of person could create so many miraculous foods, but one thing's for sure, she must have been sent by the beast god to save me. Bai Xiaoling was already immune to such rainbow praise. The villagers down the mountain could come up with even more florid compliments than him. Yen Xiaolu left the shop. Seeing the live stream still full of doubts, he put on a serious face and said solemnly, "I swear I'm really not exaggerating. Fans who live nearby can come try it in person. The taste is really excellent. If there's a single exaggeration in what I've said, may the beast god strike me dead with lightning right now. You don't believe me? Fine, tomorrow I'll go again. You are more than welcome to come spend at the shop if you're my fan. Show your livestream fan badge level, and I'll reimburse all your expenses. Tomorrow at noon, don't forget. Gourmet. I guarantee you won't regret it." The viewers in the livestream, seeing this, really had their curiosity piqued. Even if it was paid actors, they wouldn't go to such lengths, right? Aren't they afraid that when a huge crowd floods the restaurant to expose its tricks, they'll bankrupt the streamer by eating them out of house and home? Nearby fans were already organizing in their chat groups and deciding to go check out the place the next day. Yen Xiaolu ended the stream and returned to the hotel, suddenly feeling something was off in his stomach. His sphincter tightened, he bolted for the bathroom and pushed out a large, blackish lump of wok knows what. He crawled out after a long while, then rushed back in shortly after. After repeating this several times, Yen Xiaolu was exhausted. Dragging his tired body, he fought off sleep and sent a message to the fan group. "Speaking too soon, brothers, don't come, the food is poisoned." After sending that, he tossed his smart brain aside and collapsed onto the bed, falling into a deep sleep. The healing power of the food kept flowing through his body. As he lost consciousness, his psychic power was gradually restored. The crocodile fangs that had been broken off in a fight regrew in his sleep, even sharper and healthier than before. As I kept writing, I unconsciously opened the takeout app. Me. Chapter 27 Inspecting the food she made. The next day, Baisu had opened the shop, and it wasn't even noon yet when she saw a large crowd pouring in. They were all young people, mostly strangers who hadn't met before, and they were accompanied by several staff in white lab coats. The chest of the white coats read Food Safety Administration. Where's the shop owner? Come out. The leading bearman was big and burly, looking like he meant trouble. Bai Xiaoling and a few little cubs were arranging tables and chairs in the courtyard to prepare for the midday business. When they saw these people come in, they all froze mid-action. Baisu came out of the kitchen. It's me. May I ask what the matter is? It's not uncommon for a shop to get troublemakers coming by, and dealing with them was second nature to her. Baisu was calm and composed, a warm smile on her face. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person when you smile at someone, anger wanes a bit. The bear Beastman froze for a moment when he saw Baisu. Meeting her clear, bright eyes, the words on his lips suddenly caught in his throat. Baisubi had lost even more weight than before. Although she still weighed over 150 jin, you could already see the outline of a beauty taking shape. Her brows and eyes were bright and delicate, her nose high and straight, eyes large and sparkling. Her cheeks were full and tender, and her rosy, plump lips gave off an inexplicable sensuality that easily sparked illicit thoughts. Females in the Federation are extremely rare, and those remaining are mostly frail, carrying a sickly aura. Their gazes are often dry and listless, unlike the robustness of males. A female like Baisu with rosy complexion, sparkling eyes, a palpable fullness and juiciness, and such vitality that it effortlessly arouses secret desire is something almost never seen. Baisu, seeing they didn't answer, asked again, "Are you here to eat?" The bear Beastman seemed to come to, his face showing some embarrassment, the base of his ears bright red. But thinking of the purpose of their visit, he quickly straightened his expression, putting on a fierce, threatening look. You must be the owner of the place that sells cooked food, right? We heard your food is poisoned, and we've come to inspect." Poisoned? Baisu was taken aback, a puzzled look on his face. How could that be? My ingredients are all fresh. They can't be poisoned. If you don't believe me, come in and check yourselves. She blinked her big eyes, confusion and the panic of being misunderstood written all over them. Hurriedly making room for them to inspect as if eager to help, her openness made them all feel guilty. The male beside her couldn't help leaning close to the bear Beastman and whispering, "Could we have misunderstood? This little female doesn't look like the kind of person who would do something like that." "Yeah. Brother Bear, maybe we've got it wrong? We barged over here all red-faced and angry. Look, we scared the poor little female. They only rushed over after hearing Yan Xiaolu say last night that the food was poisoned. They hadn't given any prior warning, so this little female couldn't possibly have taken precautions in advance." A nearby food inspector stepped forward and said, "Whether it's poisoned or not, we'll find out by checking. Where's the kitchen?" Baisu pointed to the kitchen entrance beside them. "This way, you can go in and take a look." The two food inspectors went in first, followed closely by the males behind them. Some people in the crowd still couldn't control their eyes, stealing glances at Baisu. She was still plump, but her skin was extremely fair, tender, and smooth. In the height of summer, she wore a sleeveless, knee-length dress with a pale blue ruffled apron tied at the front. Her chest was full, her figure ample. She looked like a ripe, juicy peach. The pale rabbit ears drooping at her sides were utterly adorable, making people want to reach out and pinch them. Such an enticing female, even if the peachy scent on her was faint, was a powerful visual shock to the male beast people, who rarely had contact with females. Someone murmured softly, "This little female is really pretty, so young-looking, her face is like tofu. I saw her livestream before, and thought she had heavy skin smoothing and whitening filters on. Wow, she looks even more youthful in person than on stream. Such a beautiful female, she couldn't have done something like that, could she? Can you stop thinking about nothing but females and love-struck nonsense? Just because she's female doesn't mean she can ruin food and drive up prices, or stream for clicks, or sell poisonous food to consumers. Even Yan Shun got poisoned. Wake up." Bai Xiaoling had excellent hearing. Overhearing their murmurs nearby, he roughly understood what they had come for. He had originally thought the uncle who came to eat yesterday would speak well of them, but unexpectedly he turned around and slandered them. He angrily pawed at Baisus Rabbit Ear, quietly conveying their murmurs to her. A flash of comprehension passed through Baisus' eyes. She more or less had an idea in her heart. She had thought a competitor was trying to frame her, but she didn't expect the publicity to be handed to her on a silver platter. Yesterday Yin Xiaolu ate so much of her food, he's probably detoxing back home. When she first transmigrated, her body was so fat. After eating the food she cooked, her body reacted too. There was surface grime and she had diarrhea. Yin Xiaolu ate a lot and reacted strongly. It's likely his body had already accumulated quite a bit of impurities. She followed into the kitchen and saw the food safety inspector scanning some of the dishes she had just made with a device that looked like a laser scanner. Some braised and stewed dishes can be prepared in advance and kept on the stove over low heat to gently warm. The others, noses twitching at the smell and practically drooling, were still pretending to remain composed while inspecting. Baisu said kindly, "You can try it if you like, don't be shy. My food really isn't poisoned." The food inspector calmly pushed up his glasses on the bridge of his nose. "Then I won't be polite." He put down his gun, picked up a clean spoon beside him and, a bit impatient, scooped up a piece of stewed beef brisket and stuffed it into his mouth, only to grimace in pain from the burn. Seeing his unusually pale face, everyone panicked. "Is it really poisonous? Is it a corrosive toxin? Did your tongue get burned? Spit it out." But the man wanted to spit it out too. Yet the rich, fragrant flavor exploded in his mouth, and he suddenly couldn't bear to. He chewed and found it increasingly unbelievable, eyes wide, heart racing, his whole body in a state of extreme excitement. Seeing this, the people around instinctively thought he had been poisoned. The bear Beastman looked at her in disappointment. "And you still say your food is fine? Even the food safety inspector got poisoned on the spot. Damn, it really is poisonous. It's obvious fresh ingredients don't keep long. They have to be professionally processed into cans, or made into nutrient paste. She's just gobbling up fresh food. Of course the ingredients would spoil. And these weird seasonings, what are these things? Antiquated relics shelved years ago. Who even dug them up for her?